Yo, what's happening? What's going on? Welcome. I hope you guys had a good time. That break, you had some time to reflect and read and listen. And I hope you guys had opportunities to grow a little bit, make some money, spend time with your family. We got another one, this first class of the month. This is going to be, again, we're going to continue with the heat, continue pushing the envelope of information and knowledge. And yeah, let's get to it. Excited to teach it. So the title of this class today is called Strategy Work. The goal is to really reflect on what's being taught from a perspective of critical thinking. A lot of times when people talk, there's as you guys know, there's content and there's context. So the goal in these classes is to build the muscle of content and context, to listen to the content as well as the context. That's what makes us and can make you an amazing listener. And when you are ever around someone and you think, man, they just know me so well, they pretty much know what I'm gonna do before I do it. A lot of those times they have mastered or got extremely good at the art of listening for content and context. And that means I hear your words, but I also can read between the lines of your words, your facial expressions, your energy, the pauses in your words, the feelings, the phrases that you use to really understand what you're saying as well, not just the words. You guys understand that? So if if someone asks you, how you doing? And you say, I'm cool. What does that mean? It can mean a few things. It can mean I'm really cool. It means I'm tired. It could mean I'm fucked up, but I don't feel like telling you. Feel like I'm in a hurry. I don't feel like explaining. And you can read between all those things, between context and content. But that's here nor there. But I just want, scrolling through the class, I want you to try to listen with both lenses, the content and the context lens. So let's go first slide.
Over appraisal, deprived super reaction tendency, and the endowment effect, how it affects the way you position your product offering.
All right, so these first two slides come from a few discussions that I had that I wanted to bring up. So I want you to understand these human tendencies, because I want you to understand what happens to all of us inside. And for my world, the basketball world, there's coaches, there's players, and there's parents, right? So a coach's job is to win the game, right? So he has this set of players that he needs to position himself to win the game. So he can't allow any of his emotions or skin to get in the game to cloud his ability to win games. So he has to assess a player's ability for what it is, right? Then you got the players. Individually, one player is this kid who wants to make it, wants to be good, wants to start. This kid is who he is, and he's doing the best he can. Maybe he also wants to have fun. But on the playgrounds and in games, the law of hierarchy, he eventually figures out where he fits in the hierarchy. If he's the best player, the second best player, or the worst player. He knows. He knows. Then you got the parent. Then you got the parent. And if you ask the parent, no matter how trash that kid is, that parent thinks that kid is the next Michael Jordan most of the time. Why? And is that a consistency? Does everybody agree with that? That typically happens if you play that your kid, that kid is the best kid. I don't care. You're just not playing him enough. He was hurt. That's why he fouled him. That's not true. That's not right. Any excuse that could be made in the book because my kid is the best shit since Michael Jordan walks this earth. Why is that? It's because of this first one called over-appraisal tendency. What over-appraisal tendency is that whatever a particular human owns that comes from that human, that's theirs, or themselves, they tend to over-appraise it by a lot. It's my kid. That kid looks like me. He got my genes. But if you push that kid into the crowd, how does the child fare? And can you accurately assess that child's abilities based on data, facts, and skill level? Can you? It's a tough. Most parents can't. Most parents can't, because you know what most parents see is the potential. Most parents see potential. So we tend to overappraise what's ours. When we own it, we tend to overappraise because we had certain emotional experiences with it. And each positive emotional experience that you have with the thing, the child, a possession, it adds value in your mind. But to the outside world, they didn't experience that shit. They don't know. You had a car or you had your first kiss in. They don't give a shit about that. What is the value of the car? What's the Kelly Blue Book? The Kelly Blue Book don't got your first kiss in there or whatever other positive experiences you have. But we tend to, as we accumulate positive experiences in a thing, overpraise it, which skews our ability to see reality, to negotiate well, to offer up products in the industry or in the market. So if I have a clothing line and it's called whatever it's called, I designed it. Therefore, I think it'll be $300. It should be $300 because I designed it. Because people don't know where I'm from, what I've been through in life, what I had to go through to get here. I done been through hell to get here. So you're taking all of that value, that emotional work that you put in for yourself, and you're infusing it into the appraisal of the product. You have to understand, once you step into this world, you have to look at it as a fresh start. They don't care. All the emotional aspects of the appraisal of your value, people don't care. And once you understand that, now you're at an even playing field and you can see things the same way they see it. I got my own store. I got my own this. I built my own this. It just looked like a store to me, bro. Just like a million other stores in the United States. Like what? Now, at this point, now we can play. Why can we play at that point? Because now we can see things for the way they are and understand that, where I'm at is just normal. Not good enough. If I want to stand out, I got to stand out. I'm not the only kid from the hood who came out and built something. There's a lot. Then what? So our overappraisal because of emotional connections to things is what is limiting us in business. Remember that. And this is not to devalue us or to dog us out, but I'm trying to get us to see clear so we can really play this entrepreneurial game. Have you ever been to a soul food restaurant in that soul food restaurant, the pictures on the wall, the furniture is the raggediest, nastiest shit you ever seen. Investing nothing into the decor of the place, how clean it is. You know what that comes down to a lot of times is the struggle of building something, and now we got it. It's here now. And you don't know how hard I worked to get here. So to me, in my eyes, this is amazing. This is crustaceans. This is beautiful. This is, in my eyes, because you're backfilling with your eyes all the work and all the hell you've been through to get here. But you have to look at yourself as that little kid, separate yourself from those parents, and now you in the game. Now you in the game. It's a saying, the ball don't lie. So if you score 2 points or no points or sit the bench or whatever, that's because you wasn't good enough. You was good enough to make the team. But if you want to play, you want to get in there, you want to hoop, then you have to step up and get better. And a lot of times that boils down to us over appraising our products, services, our food. This is my grandma's special recipe. She passed it down through 100 years. Let them taste test it. What do they say? If they say, then fuck that recipe. Are you saying fuck my grandma? No, I'm not saying fuck I'm saying fuck her recipe in the marketplace. Yes, I'm saying fuck the recipe in the marketplace, not her. But some are so emotionally tied to that recipe, that's it. I'm not, I'm gonna make y'all like this recipe. Again, over appraisal. There was a question 2 weeks ago from Hapasua about, from Silence about, well, and you in the clothing game, all these trends keep changing, and the sweatpants go from tight pants to big pants. Man, do you just get tired of like, do you gotta make big pants? What does your market tell you? What's your demographic say? If your demographic says make big pants, then make big pants. If your demographic says make it tighter, then make it tighter. Because if not, what you're doing is over appraising your eye, what you think, your opinion, your, and it ain't about you. You said, Nana said something dope. It's, are you doing business? Or are you doing you? And if you're doing you, I suggest you stop doing business and do you. Because that way you won't lose no money. You can have fun. You could do you. I can design clothing just for myself, or I can do this just for me and I like it. Cool. Then you ain't got to stress over whether or not what to do in the marketplace, because you can't do both. Now, sometimes people get lucky and you happen to do you and other people like it. That's great. That's dope. That's lottery. That's lottery. More time than not, there's some kind of percentage of overlap there. Some more times than not. Is that there's some things you really enjoy about what you do, and then the rest, not so much. If that's the case, you winning in life. You're winning in your business. 90% of the stuff that my company makes now, I don't even wear. It ain't me. I'm about to be 50. It's not me. So, but it ain't about me. So who cares? So over appraisal. Entrepreneurs, we get really good at keeping it real, being stoic, being honest, being as accurate as possible. Man, once you get good at that game, you get cold. Because until you get to that point, then you're going to be skewed in how you assess things. How do we do today? We got a B plus today. We got an A. Well, how do you measure an A in business? Well, a lot of people said that they liked our product. I got 300 likes. Man, accuracy is once you come up with what your measuring tools are, you get precise at how to measure what you do. Don't overappraise. Don't overappraise. And yeah, it sucks sometimes, but so what? That's how you get better. Second one, deprived superreaction. This one is another tendency that us humans have that can lead us down a rabbit hole of losses and loss in time. If you are attacking as an entrepreneur, you're going after something, you're trying to get there, you drop a product or you have a service or you're doing certain things and in business and you get close, you almost get there. You almost get there. But then it fails. You almost make it happen and then it fails. A lot of the times our tendency is to chase that thing, to chase it, continuously chase it. And that's how marketers, businesses get you. I'll give you an example. Say you at a casino, right? You pulling the things down, you put your money in, boom. And to win the big prize, you got to get 4 lemons, right? So you pull the thing and you see it spinning and you see lemon, 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 and then it slows down and it's lemon, almost a lemon, and then it's an orange. And you're like, oh, fuck, I almost had it, almost won the big $10,000 thing. Guess what a lot of people do from that point forward? They're hooked on trying to get there again. They're hooked, and that's how they get you. That's a marketing tactic. That's a technique. But you know, it also happens in business too. It happens in business for us too. You almost sign this big deal, or you almost sign this thing, or you almost make this thing happen, or you almost get here, and a lot of times your brain is called deprived superreaction tendency because it's deprived of the thing that could have made it great for you. Your whole focus is now chasing that thing. As entrepreneurs, as business folks, we got to pull back. Take that deep breath. Be as stoic as possible in the moments. And we human. Humans going human. But at the same time, have the critical thinking to be able to reposition yourself in the best place as a business. And there are people paid millions of dollars, and it's their job to find the super reaction tendencies in you. Cold game. And sometimes you think things that are accidents ain't accidents. It was designed from a business perspective. Yeah. So, last one. The endowment effect. My iPad died, so hold on. I want to make sure I get this right. The endowment effect is similar to overappraisal. The endowment effect is they're cousins, and what that means is it's if you owned something, it's worth this, but if somebody else owned it, it's worth this. That's what the endowment effect is. And it's the reason why it's related to overappraisal is because once in your product offering, in your business, in whatever you do, you have to be as stoic as possible, which means you have to be able to see it the way the market sees it. If you can't see it the way the market sees it, then it's overendowed. And you can't position yourself and play the game correctly. If I say, hey, I'm gonna give you guys all a budget to of a particular amount of money to play with, everybody has 50,000. And you plan accordingly. You're moving, you're shaking. But what if it happened to only be 15,000? To the market, you screwed. So again, you have to be extremely as accurate as possible about what your product offering is versus how the market sees it. And once those two are close, then you can play accurately. You can maneuver accurately. Any questions on those before we move on?
There was a question online that I think you might have answered, but the question is, can an overappraisal cause you to not take action as well? So for example, let's say you create curriculum for schools, but you don't ever propose it to any institution because you keep editing the proposal.
I wouldn't call that overappraisal. That kind of veers off into fear and perfectionism.
Yeah.
That's a fear and perfectionism. That's a different animal. Overappraisal is have you ever seen any videos where the dude was super rah-rah, thinking he was a tough guy and pumping his chest off, talking shit to the other quiet guy, and kept rah-rahing around him, thinking that his machismo was scaring him and he got knocked the fuck out by the quiet guy? That's the same thing. That's overappraisal. That's overappraisal of your value, underappraisal of what you can do. So, like, if you're planning for the worst on the other side, then you're going to be way more careful on this side.
Just the answer to that was actually in the rework book. It's the threshold of being analytical. There's a point where you could be so analytical you destroy your projects and you kill the spark. Like especially that's why people with perfectionism have a tendency to have more failures, not because they can't do the job, they overanalyze the job. And the best way to measure success is not sometimes getting it right, but just progress. And that was in the book, by the way.
Yep, and perfect segue.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
Just in terms of one of the things, I don't want to get into like a weird gender space.
I'm out.
I don't want to get into a weird gender space. So I just want to, because I'm going to say something, but I don't want to get into a weird gender space. So I'm going to say my observation, right? So it's muddy, but an observation and a conversation that comes up amongst amongst women is, and so there are some studies, there's some data out there. I haven't looked a whole lot into how many people they did this to, but there are studies about women in particular and how they may be underappraising oftentimes their offering. So they may not go out for promotions. They may not go, like they don't necessarily go after opportunities even though they're in the room and they're absorbing all of the content, but they don't take action to the same degree. And so I think that, you know, there are a number of women that I could point to that actually aren't behaving like that, but this is a conversation. There is a conversation out there that at least there is data that is showing women not getting after things to the same degree that men are. And so I think I just thought it was really interesting to think about what you've just shared in that context.
But I think it's the actual. It is the effects that all victimized perceived people go through. You can say the same thing for Black people as a whole. You can say the same thing about Latino people, LGBTQ plus. Anybody who think that they won't be accepted will underappraise, right? And quite often they will overvalue. Like when we say the word white supremacy, it's that within that phrase is overvalue, right? They're just a bunch of white people trying to take care of themselves. I'm not saying they don't have systemic racism doesn't have systemic power, because we're not going. That goes without saying, but that's not the case at McDonald's, right? so a lot of times we'll walk into a room, see a whole bunch of white people look in uniform, and all of a sudden we underpraise our value. We won't even try certain things. We won't even. You can see it at the capital kind of business industries that Black people are engaging in. We're engaging in the same old industries because we are underappraising, which is true. But I think what Corda's talking about is amazing, and I don't want us to miss this, because the overappraisal is also how we've been manipulated during the George Floyd era
100%.
with nonprofits saying, "Oh, you should sell your products for $25 for this $5 item because you deserve." And we just bought into it because we were victims of our own overappraisal. So I think there's so much here. If we're gonna course correct to survive in a market that's no longer going to give us overvalue and is becoming more neutral, if not even anti us in some cases, then we're gonna have to get a little bit more real about how reality works. And I think this reality correction that he's trying to provide at the beginning of his class, I had no idea he's gonna bring this, but this is pretty damn dope.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing, because of hearing a lot of entrepreneurs of all genders, both genders, because there's been years when they had it good, or at farmers markets. Like you'll see some crazy amounts for products, and at the time, people paying for it. So it's time to really reevaluate. It's way better to allow the market to dictate your price. Now, in corporate world, where if you're an employee, a lot of times what you're saying is accurate, because people feel undervalued when you walk into a corporate environment, and we don't necessarily recognize our magic, and especially women are magical, but they won't speak up. And it's time to get the raises or other things they don't. So yes, that for sure can happen in those environments. But on the entrepreneur side of the line, I think across the board it happens. It happens equally across the board, because it comes from a lot of times where it comes from a place of damage, where we're damaged emotionally somewhere. So it's definitely a course correction and an observation that over appraisal in business, it's when you allow the market to dictate your prices, then it can allow you to even ramp faster. It can allow you to ramp, because the market will tell you, man, I would have paid this and this and this for that. You would have? Okay. That means it's time to, if you sell out in 2 minutes, that means it's time to raise your prices. Fern?
Microphone.
Who got the mic?
Where's the microphone?
No, you need a mic.
Where's the microphone? Yeah, there you go.
I'm hating that I got here a little late, because I'm going through this right now. And my question is around, when the market is settling, I'm having this issue now. So we were at X amount price, and we've been able to year over year increase it. This year we had lower sales in the projections, and I'm literally going through this right now, like letting the market dictate the price, but not undervaluing the experience. So it's like, I feel like I need to lower the price just a little bit because I'd rather have volume over, but we're going through that thing, and this, Nana, I'll probably be talking to you more about it one-on-one, just where do we find that sweet spot? Because again, you don't want to I don't want to price out potential folks coming in, but definitely don't want to overvalue, because I don't even want to put no because around it. There's a lot of factors that could go into why things didn't happen the way we expected. But I'm literally in this situation right now of do we tweak prices to see how the market reacts? The unfortunate thing is I only get like once a year to really test out the model, because that's when we have our big event. But this is literally what I'm agonizing over now. So I'm going to be running this back a few times.
For sure. And by the way, Fern's event
Man, come on,
was
say
beautiful.
Say something
it was
about it.
incredible to me. I mean,
Man, come on.
And aside from the numbers, like that was, it was probably one of the most beautiful events that I've gone to, where it was that many beautiful, upscale black folks enjoying their time. So what you're doing is magic and it's special.
Man,
so
come on.
it's, and we're gonna talk about it in class more of what that is, to where it's not an agony, it's more tweaks. It's just tweaks, because what you built is amazing.
Talk about it.
I have a friend that kind of not turned his back, but just kind of collapsed on black folks. He's a successful black man and been bruised enough times to where he say, man, I ain't fucking with black people no more. So I was like, for word, instead of arguing with you about it, going back and forth because you older than me, well, hey, why don't you come with me to this event? It was perfect timing. And he came to the event and his whole world was blown to see this many sophisticated, beautiful black folks in one room. Changed his world.
Bruh.
So yes, the model gets tweaked. And as long as you have that attitude, then you're going to be good. It's the stubbornness and the stiffness of not wanting to change and like, that was my price, so I'm not going nowhere. Or saying, well, I already raised it here, so, that means I can't go lower. No. Again, there is no perfection. There is no perfection. We're tweaking and we're adjusting and making changes as we go. And if you remove the ego out, then you will win. If you remove the ego out. And last point is, under appraisal is just as dangerous as over appraisal. So grossly under appraising your product don't help you either. Because if you like, I ain't gonna make no money on this, but whoa, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Because there's other things you can add to add value to your price point. Because there's other variables, marketing variables. How can I convince the customer of my value that they're getting way more than what they're spending? Like there's other values, but the detailed accuracy of over appraisal and under appraisal is a concept that I want you guys to embrace. All right. Next slide, and it goes perfectly with that question.
I'm not special. I just failed more times than you tried.
I'm gonna let that breathe. A lot of times y'all think because it's magic. It's magic. Man, I done failed, got up, tried again, failed, got up, tried again, failed, got up, tried again before you woke up. Like, why you got a black eye? It's 6 o'clock in the morning. That's it. That's, if you want a secret sauce, that's the secret sauce. Shakina.
I was just having this conversation with one of my clients right before I came to class, and they were trying to give me this soft, pampering conversation about how I work so hard and how they feel so bad for me. And they have, a corporate job or whatever. They're very safety netish. And I was like, the only reason why I've been able to accomplish what I have at my age is because I'm not afraid of falling on my ass. And they were talking about how they were struggling to get their kids to understand, like, pretty much like a balance of like self-care and like pushing themselves. They were like complaining about how their kids were lazy. And then I made the bold comment to say, like, I don't really think you're probably doing a great job at the way that you're having the conversation with your kids, because the way that you're talking to me as a grown adult entrepreneur parent of trying to make me coddle myself, I can't imagine that the conversation is translating the way you think it is to your kids. So we had a really dope conversation about adulting and like how everybody is so quick to run to their comfort zone in their corner and not realizing that, like, whether you're sick or not, you got to pay your bills. Whether you don't feel good, you got to take care of your kids. Whether you don't want to go to work, you still have to show up. But we're like in this environment where everybody is just trying to find the perfect frictionless experience. And if you somehow are successful, you have to be this special being, not realizing like all the scrapes and bruises you got along the way to do that. And so it was just really interesting to see like the mental framing difference between like having a conversation with somebody that has a job, because I don't usually go there with my clients because I'm trying to protect, my bottom line. I'm like, I never want my personal feelings to get in the way of my money. That's not okay. But it was a good conversation and just interesting to remember, like, that's why the entrepreneur circle is so important, because we do have very different framings on like what is appropriate for levels of discomfort or the amount of times you fail or whatnot. So
That's it. Entrepreneurship, successful entrepreneurs, successful people, money makers, people really getting after it, people who've elevated to a particular level of success in their life. If you interview them, most of the time you will find, if you get down to the root, to the systems, to their processes, most of it is all the shit you don't see behind the scenes. And that is literally way more tries, and way more fails. So how comfortable do you think I am with failure? Pretty fucking comfortable. I quit my job in 2003. So going on 23 years as an entrepreneur. Like no 401k, pension, retirement plan, insurance program. So how many, and I'm talking from the bottom to a certain level of the top. From the bottom. EBT bottom. Eastmont Mall, waiting in line to get the EBT card. So imagine that spectrum and all the failures in between. That's it. That's all. And you know how far I got so far to go? So a lot of these perfectionists and these people who have to get it right the first time and it has to be so perfect, and what you're doing is your sample size is so far and few between that you can't establish a rhythm. You can't establish a rhythm. How can you get on the beat if you try to get on the beat and you off beat and you're like, fuck, and you wait there to the next song because you mad because you failed? How you get on the beat is you just keep riding it. You're gonna be offbeat, and you're gonna be offbeat, but you stay at it until finally the rhythm clicks in, and now you in. I don't want to hear it, y'all. Stop. That was dope. That was dope. You feel that's entrepreneurship. That is entrepreneurship. And how long do you have? How many times do you have to try to jump in there to write? You just got to keep doing it till you do it. My daughter, I love my daughter is my heart. She loved dancing. So when she was 2, 3, I watch her and that beat is over here and she's over there, right? She don't care, but she don't realize like every year, like she's getting closer and closer to it. She getting closer and closer to it. And that's the beauty of it. Kids don't have the amount of times to try before they feel bad. Imagine if all of us was babies and it was time to walk. About a year old, now it's time to walk. We've been crawling. We get up, we take our first step, we fall. Bow. You know what? A lot of the adult versions of us would never try to walk again. Man, I can't believe, man, that I've been doing this my whole life. How come he walk? That's what we do. That's what we do. I gotta get the nerve up. I gotta meditate. I gotta do all these things. I gotta sage myself just so that I can try to walk again because I'm just so emotionally, I was traumatized by that failure. Come on, Vlad. Meanwhile, the motherfucker who don't care about getting laughed at has touched all the walls, all the floors trying to walk. Boom. Been there, done that. On to the next. We have to get like that. So what? That's your high analytical word. So what? So what? So what? Who cares? We're such a selfish society. You think people really care about you like that, give a fuck about you like that. They don't. Most people too busy caring about themselves. You could tell somebody something super traumatic. My dog just got ran over. You know what most people will do? I remember my dog. I had a dog too that got ran over. I'm talking about my dog. We quick to do that. So you think somebody gonna trip on your little failures, your little onesie, twosie failures? Go after it. Go after it. This is important. I'll tell this one more thing too is a lot of the times the most people who talk the most shit about your failures are the ones who don't try nothing. What have you done? What have you done? There's a saying by, I think it's Sun Tzu, it's better to see the rise and the fall of a thing than to never see the rise at all. Is that the art of war? It's the art of war. That's my mantra. Yeah, I failed hella times. So what? What you done? How many times you tried? How many times you failed? So what? Next slide. All right. So we're going to jump in there. Chapter 1 and 2, emotional agility. All entrepreneurship shit is psychology. All this is some form of psychology. Internal psychology work on yourself, and external psychology work on your customers. And the product is like 20%. So 180% of this is psychology, and 20% is the product or the service. Next slide.
Unhappy in a relationship, find another. Not productive enough, there's an app for that. When we don't like what's going on in our inner world, we apply the same mindset. We go shopping, we get a new therapist, or we resolve to fix our own unhappiness and dissatisfaction and simply think positive.
Man, this is a saying that the youngsters have. Standing 10 toes down, right? You know what that means? Most of us do. Standing 10 toes down. We have to learn how to stand 10 toes in our relationships, in our life, in our business. We got to stop running from shit when it gets hard. Stop running. Learn how to process it. It's not going to feel good. Learn how to process difficult conversations. We got to have this tough conversation, and we going to sit right here and have it. And we going to negotiate, sit here and right here and negotiate. We got to stop running. Things get hard. Relationships get hard. And fuck it, I'm out. You out? So that person is called the dabbler. You just float from one experience to the next in life and got no, you know, in sports, and some people are known as the closer. In sales, you got people who are known as the closer. Or in baseball, they'll bring out the closer. For a while, they used to say Steph Curry couldn't close no games, or LeBron James couldn't close no games. Even early Kobe Bryant, they said he couldn't close games, meaning that when it's on the line, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do you got the guts to put the dagger in the game and to win it? You know what the dagger comes from? It's from being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. You know how to breathe through it. You know how to see in it. And when you can breathe through it and see in it, then now you're able to perform in it, because all your resources aren't so focused on fear and running. That's why if you notice in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's the person who get the ball who ain't built for that. It's not even, it don't miss a little bit. It be an air ball. How does an NBA player shoot an air ball? You know why? It's because in a crunch time situation, the fear, all your resources is taken up by fear. You ain't been in this situation before enough times. You say in boxing, if a fighter is 21-0, you know what people want to see now? I want to see his ability to really fight throughout, take the whole fight to the end, to see if he has the ability to really fight with a good fighter. Because I want to see his ability to close. That's a skill. As an entrepreneur, y'all all going to have to know how to close. Y'all can't have a relief pitcher coming in for you. You got to know how to close that deal. You got to be able to know how to close that customer or negotiations or whatever. So that's why if you running in life over here, you can't expect to be a good entrepreneur over here. Ain't gonna work. We need a mic for her. Hit that button, yeah.
I have a question about this, because I'm thinking about, because what you're saying is like, don't running, and then a little bit ago we're saying you got to get up and keep going. Like once you fail, you got to get up and keep going. We can't take the time to like da-da-da. But it seems like the not running would require some of that like patience and some of that like evaluation at the time of failure. And so I'm wondering like what the sweet spot between that is, like understanding that a failure, yes, you're going to fail all the time, but like taking the time to kind of sit with that failure and like realize what the lessons are. Because it seems like here, like not running would mean you have to like sit in the discomfort of the failure. And the other question I have is about like the interpersonality of this all, because you're saying like we have to learn how to have like real deep conversations and different things like that. And thinking about like the overappraisal, like I'm thinking about my parents' like art collection. Sometimes they do like boutiques and stuff. Mm-hmm. And my mom's like, this is worth $150. I'm like, it's really not. It's really not. It's really not. It's really not. But how do you tell that to your mom who's been like collecting her art? You know, like where do you enter those conversations interpersonally? Because you're saying like this is all about psychology with you and your customer. And I'm feeling like part of that psychology would be the relationship and the interpersonality of these different things. So I'm wondering like, do you have any tips for letting someone know that they're like over-evaluate, or any tips for this, like letting someone know that they're running or that they're not sitting with failure, or like any tips for telling ourselves that? Because yeah, I was raised, like all the things you're saying, like I was raised in a space to be like worried about it, to be like fearful of it. So I'm having a hard time seeing past that, especially when it seems like kind of a both and.
Great question. Amazing question. So I'll say there's a twofold answer, because I'll break your question up in two parts. Part number one is the failing. The component of failure is the important component of failure is the evaluation component, is the postmortem component. It's the what can I learn from this component, because the second, if you don't have that component in between failures, then the second try, you're just doing the same shit you did before. That's insanity, right? Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So in order for you not to be insane, you have to be able to learn from it and tweak the next try, right? So so the sitting in it 10 toes down, it starts in two places. One, it's in the heat of the situation. You know, when a situation gets heated, or a moment gets heated, or there's tension in a moment, or if somebody says, well, how much do you charge? And you say, well, I don't really talk about money like that. That's saying, I'm running from this. I'm running from this. I don't want to talk about it. I'm running. So as uncomfortable as you are, the training is stuttering through that shit the first time. Well, my prices are I normally charge, but I don't give a fuck how nasty, ugly, stupid it sounds. It's better than you running the time before. So it's in the heat of those moments where your fight, flight, freeze kicks in. And you know when those times are. It happens a lot in negotiations or in sales with customers. If a customer is unhappy, giving you negative feedback, if customers giving you negative feedback, a lot of times the over appraisal of yourself, your products, and your businesses will cause you instantly to get defensive. Versus, nope, we're going to have this uncomfortable conversation and I want to hear you all the way out. So I'm not going but, because once I do that, it may make you shut down. So I want to hear all of this. And I'm going to be boiling inside, but I'm going to stand 10 toes in this business shit and listen. That's not running. Those are the parts. Those are the components. Somebody say, man, how come your price is so high? I would fuck with it if it was this price. If you say you buckle down to that and say, all right, I do that. Or if you found ways to negotiate your value to make them flip the script, that's all practice on staying in the pocket, staying in the moment. Now, what you're suggesting on the side of your parents, I wouldn't even say shit. I got so much work to do on my side, man. If you like it, I love it. Let me know how it goes. Now, if they ask my opinion, how much do you think this is worth? Oh, you're asking me? Okay, now I'm gonna give you that shit. I don't think it's worth 150. I think it's worth this, and here's why. But if somebody doesn't ask me my opinion, then it's not my business at this moment. I'm working on Courtney, and Courtney got hella I got hella shit to work on.
Let me add two side things. The first one, when you look at this slide, this is actually a epidemic in my immediate culture, being a media culture, Oakland black culture. I don't know black culture in Richmond. I don't know black culture in Sacramento, but Oakland. When shit gets hard, what do like cats do? Go give me a drink. Go smoke me something real quick. The act of running from the friction, the lessons is in the friction. Even I see some people want to lose weight, and you guys do this Atkins shits or some other shits. Y'all don't do the gym diets, meaning take your ass to the gym, right? It's always avoid the friction when the lesson's actually in the friction. And so when we talk about going to the gym every week, Shama works out 6 days a week. I think Court works 5 or 6 days. I work out 6 days a week. Why do we practice that? It's learning how to sit with it. Sit with situations, sit with the friction, sit with the things you don't like, and then extract the lessons from those things. But if you're always avoiding them and always patching them, like I remember when Shakina first started her business, I used to call her Patches, because she would patch everything. But then when the shit would fall, everything would just come in like a big ass building collapsing on her back, because she patched everything and she never dealt with anything. So she wasn't upgrading her strategical thinking because she was over patching. So she wasn't learning from anything, which should be advancing her. She was bypassing a lesson by patching it. So a lot of times when we're going through shit and we want to grab that alcohol, grab that weed, go sleep with somebody that y'all know y'all should really be fucking with, you're avoiding the lesson. You gotta sit in that space, right? So even when you fall, sit with it. Get into a deep inquiry. What happened? And don't. And as we taught in this class, don't get caught into the victimization or the blame game. Take radical responsibility. Whatever happens to you is your responsibility. It might not be your fault, but it's your responsibility. So always ask yourself, what could I have done differently to change the situation? And it ain't gonna always feel good. You know, one thing I notice, if I'm listening to somebody, if I'm listening to a speaker online or anywhere, and I like everything they're saying, I'm not learning anything. Mm-hmm. They at some point, they gotta say something that makes me go, I don't know if I like this dude, right? Mm-hmm. But I gotta sit with it, right? For the simple fact that if you don't, because if everything's pleasing you, that means you're not changing. Mm-hmm. Something has to make you feel uncomfortable, right? I listened to a discussion about race and where we are as black folks today, and the one dude had a very white accent and brother, but he's from Stanford. The shit he was saying was true. It just didn't feel good to hear it. You know, I was like, woo, I don't know if I can share this with anybody because it's kind of hard. But there was so much depth in it, and that in itself is, once again, it's that, are you patching those moments of discomfort to make yourself happy, but also you deprive yourself of growth, right? The thing with the parent, pricing is a strategy. So pricing has to do with a lot of testing. Pricing is not singular, it's about optionality. So going back to your point, firm, multiple prices, price tiering, right? Putting the concept of status in your pricing. Mm-hmm. Third thing is that pricing also goes along with research. Also goes along with storytelling, right? You could take an item that's worth $5, change the story, it could be worth $1,000. It literally could be that much of a difference, right? So a lot of times if you said, this is not worth this much money to your mother, well, does the environment support that value? If the environment doesn't support that value, let's just say it's like Sanford and Son. So Sanford and Son came on in the 70s for you young folks. But let's say Sanford and Sons, it's just an item amongst all the other stuff. Well, no, it's going to look like it's about worth $5. But then if you place it in a certain space and frame it a certain kind of way and have a story around it, all of a sudden that $5 item is worth thousands of dollars. So it is really more or less about testing, research, and sometimes, going back to the course point, the test could be organic, which is leave them alone, and they test with the reality, and they realize 1 year later that item's still on the ship, and then they may condition them to have that proper conversation.
Dope. Next slide.
Negativity is normal.
Wow, we taste the same shit again.
This is a fundamental fact. We are wired to feel negative at times. It's simply a part of the human condition. Too much stress on being positive is just one more way our culture figuratively over-medicates the normal fluctuations of our emotions. Just as society often literally over-medicates rambunctious children and women with mood swings.
So it's not the emotions, the range of emotions that's the issue. It's our inability to manage them. And we think that a good life, it has to be stuck on this one emotion. Happy, joy, feel good. And if it's not, life's bad. Not realizing that what makes life is the range of emotions that we feel throughout our life. That's what makes it beautiful. There's no way you can enjoy the good without having memories of what bad feels like. There's no way you can enjoy joy without having memories of what misery feels like. That's what makes life beautiful. So negativity, feeling bad, not being unhappy, that's part of the human condition. And again, it goes back to that last slide. If we don't get comfortable learning how to sit in them spaces and work our way out of those places, then we'll get caught in the same mainstream shit that's happening now, where if you don't feel good, come to me. I'll give you some medicine. I'll give you this. I'll give you that. Throwing your kids on all these pills or whatever you need to do so that they have no experience throughout their whole life learning how to manage negative emotions. We used to get picked on. We used to have bullies. We used to get last place. When I grew up, it was only 3 trophies, first, second, and third. And the other 15, 20 kids got nothing.
Go home.
Take your ass home. So you know what it did? It made you go home and want to get better. Go home and practice. So we can't soften the emotional ups and downs around our kids, around people around us, and even ourselves, because we can get caught in that doom loop of anytime we're not happy, anytime we sad, we got to mask it. In this game, in this entrepreneurship game, if you trying and failing, then just know fucking negativity and feeling bad is normal. It's normal. Damn, this happened. All right, now what can I learn from it? Now, before I try again, what am I gonna do different? Okay, all right, cool. Let's try that. Like, learning how to process the fluctuations of our emotions is integral. That's why this is psychology. Entrepreneurship and business and life is psychology. Have you ever seen 2 parents when one kid falls? He scrapes a knee. And the baby cries. And he goes, "Oh, baby, come here. Oh, your knee. Oh, let me kiss it. Where does it hurt? Show me." And she points to it and she cries even more because now I need this drama, tears and everything. "Oh, let me kiss it. Oh, let me hit that bad concrete.
Wait a minute.
Bad concrete. Come hit it with me. Bad concrete." You ever see a parent do that? And if you ever seen a parent, the same kid scrapes a knee the same or worse, and the minute the kid starts to cry, get up, you good, come on, yep, you good, let's go, it's good. And the kid's like, "I was about to cry, but fuck it, all right, well, let's just do what you're telling me to do," and then we back laughing. That's management, because it's all psychology. That's management. Yeah, it's gonna hurt. Yeah, it hurts. So what? Yeah, come on, let's go. You're fine. You good. That's entrepreneurship. "Oh, I failed. Get up. Come on. You got it. You good. Come on, one more time. Are you dead? Nope, you good. Come on."
I'm good with the answer either way. But is that low-key gaslighting?
So what? See, that's a bullshit. That's a technical
Again,
term
I'm
that
good with either way.
these people have created. All these terms for shit. So what?
Well, the reason why I ask, right? So, like, I'm thinking about from a parenting perspective, right? Like, for me, I don't give a damn. I gaslight myself all the time because I got to get stuff done. So it doesn't matter if my feelings are in it. But with my kid, I'm trying to think about them being able to have a healthy relationship with like acknowledging and feeling their feelings and like not being victims of it. But if something actually hurts and then I'm like, "Nah, you don't hurt, you're fine," am I teaching them to like ignore reality or like their feelings? Or is there like a way around it? Because I mean, I think as an adult, things are different because you have like different levels of responsibility and it literally is fuck your feelings. But when you're raising a human that has to go into the world to understand like the balance between like acknowledging reality and over assessing and whatnot, like it doesn't matter.
To me, don't take it the wrong way. That mentality is why we've created this fragile world. That's why we're so fragile. I want the kid to be able to acknowledge. Now, there's some truth to curating how you want your child to process and think and move through the world, right? However, the fragility of this world is centered around how do you feel right now? They may not even be feeling nothing, but they just like engaging. So they're going to come up with some shit. Think about it. A kid's only been on this planet 7 years. What the fuck do they know? 8 years. What the fuck? 10 years. What do they know? 14 years. What do they know? Because every 4 or 5, their whole body changes. They don't even know who they are. So, yes, they need us to guide them and let them know, hey, I would err on the side of, you good. And if there's reoccurring pain, you're going to say something. Hey, I'm hurt. My knee still hurt. It's been 7 days. All right, let's go get that checked out. But we err too much on the side of, how do you feel? I don't want to gaslight you. You're an adult. You're a child, but you're a person. I want to acknowledge you. And get like that. I feel like that's how we got here. Next slide.
I have a nerd comment, and then I have a nerd. So my nerd comment is going to go first. One of the things that I think the value of how much this space drills home first principle thinking and getting curious enough to understand how certain statements or meanings came to be is really, really important. And here's why. I have become very curious where a lot of terminology that has come about since the internet has become a thing. I get really, really curious about that a lot. Because I'm like, what does that mean? How did we start? How did this become a thing? Who said that? Where was me and before ChatGPT, Google? Who first said this? Where did this come from? What were they talking about? Because I think emotions are very commercial in our culture, which means, and what I mean by that is, you can go shopping for whatever emotion of the moment is. There are like emotional trends. There's a lot of things that are always vying for your attention because your attention is so precious. And so because I'm super aware of that, I am always like, what does that really mean? I don't know that I know what gaslighting means. Even when it came from a psychologist or a psychiatrist, what were they looking at when they came up with that, so that I could see if I feel like that's even relevant for me. So that's like my nerd comment. And then the statement that I want to make that Court and Nana can, like, y'all could poke at it, is my muddy hypothesis is that our culture has such a poor relationship to emotions at all that this over-focus on being positive and not being negative is because it's really an avoidance of trying to feel anything, because we practice disconnection from ourselves a lot. So, and I guess I'm bringing that up because I'm not sure that I think that we even know how to be with emotions in a healthy way. Because we're so disconnected from it, a lot of what we're doing is just completely distorted. So it's not, I think we have to learn, which is why I think emotional agility is so important. That book is super important, and Science is Stuck, that podcast is super important, because I think our compass is broken culturally, definitely here, and the more things you've been exposed to that have been challenging, I think the compass just gets broken. And so more so to me than like trying to be with my emotions is giving yourself the space to learn about how emotions work. Because like before you try to like take ownership of it, you kind of have to know what's going on with it. So that's the way that I have been approaching it. And I'm saying this as someone where if y'all would have met me when Nana first met me, I thought emotions were evil. I did. And I had thought this many years. So this is like I was committed to that. And I didn't really have time for that shit. Like I don't want, in my way, that's too intense. I don't want nothing to do with that. Leave me. Be gone. And so, but what I did, I stood on that. You couldn't tell me different. And I had proof because I had experiences in my life and people that I knew had experiences in their life, and I could point to my small sample size and be like, what you got to say to that? We all say it's fucked up, so it's fucked up. And so it took literally emotional agility to help me start to rewire a lot of that so that I could even think that I could show up to an emotional conversation. Because I just didn't have the tools or the ownership of my emotions at all because I was so disconnected from myself. I could be emotional, like I'd be mad or sad or angry, but it was so limited and so narrow, I didn't have much granularity, and I think you need that before you start trying to say like what I want to avoid and what I want to have. Is like, well, learn kind of building blocks of it. It's been helpful. So I just wanted to put that out there as someone who was very convinced that emotions were of the devil and that we would be better served if we just stayed disconnected from them. If you were angry, I didn't want to be around you because you're messing up my peace. Like I was that person. Like, nah, protect my peace before protect my peace was a thing. Like I wanted to keep emotions very far from me. And I think from being in this space, I have a healthier relationship with my emotions, and now I understand how they serve me, and I also understand where they snag me. It's not, I don't know that I'm even trying for 100%. I'm just trying for empathy so that I understand how it works and how I move in the world so that I can try my best to show up to them. So I just wanted to put that out there.
It's good. It's good. Let's move on. Next slide. And I want to get through these slides. I want to get through my slides. Can I get through my slide? I got hella slides. You got what? You got questions? Somebody? All right. Tiny tweak principle versus cold turkey principle. So I got 2 slides I've been trying to get to. This one is a big one. It answers a lot of questions that you guys have had earlier about making drastic changes in your business, firm, you as well. A lot of us think we got to transform what we do. Most of what we do comes down to super tiny tweaks, just making micro adjustments in your business. That's it. Don't throw it in the trash. Don't put it in a garbage. I'm a failure, because a lot of times we think if something doesn't go right, we're failures. I'm a failure. Well, no, hold on. Let's spread it out and just look at micro adjustments that we can make and try again. Just make micro adjustments. Try again. Tweak it. Try again. That's the failure principle we talked about. I fail. What can I learn from it? What can I do next time better? Try it and evaluate. That's your cycle. That's what you do. So that the tiny cold turkey principle means I got to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And now all the momentum you built up to that point gets thrown out the window. Now you got to start from scratch again. Tiny tweaks is the secret. Little tiny tweaks. Little micro tweaks. And you'll be surprised, and we'll move on. You'll be surprised from a tiny tweak, the butterfly effect that a tiny tweak has in the long term of your business. One little no that should have been yes. One little no that should have been yes. Changes the whole dynamic. Next slide.
Traditional self-help tends to see change in terms of lofty goals and total transformation. But research actually supports the opposite view, that small, deliberate tweaks infused with your values can make a huge difference in your life. This is especially true when we tweak the routine and habitual parts of life, which then afford tremendous leverage for change.
Bang. Small, deliberate tweaks. Y'all get that? Small, deliberate tweaks. That's it. Small, deliberate tweaks. Well, notice the key word deliberate. Just deliberate. Small, deliberate tweaks. Anybody know what deliberate means? Like, what's a not deliberate punch? A deliberate punch is exactly. At home, I'm sure y'all heard that snap. Next slide. Hooked. This is the other slide. Hooked. Hooked. Knowing what hooked means, understanding what hooked means. This is, to me, the number one killer in success in business, in success in life, the number one killer of success in business, life, relationships, your own personal growth. Raising our kids, our friendships, love relationships, work relationships. This is the number one killer of our culture, this word. It is. You know what, and you know what being hooked means? Being hooked means being able to go from 0 to 100 by the stimulus of a thing. So if there's stimuli on the other end, now you're hooked. And when you react when you're hooked, you fuck it up. You destroy something. You walk away. You say things you didn't mean. You did something you didn't mean. You lost your temper. You lost it. That's what being hooked is. And in business, there's no way we can maneuver when we got all of these opportunities to be hooked. You're exposed. You're vulnerable. Some of you guys are one road rage incident from losing everything. Oh, I see one in the room. Oh, sister right here.
I listen to classical music when I drive now.
That's one try. That's one try. It's one tweak, a deliberate tweak. And some of y'all are one thing away like that from destroying friendships. I don't mess with him no more. Wait, why? Because he did this one thing to me. And y'all been friends for long. Getting hooked in business is why a lot of us we fail, comes from what we've gone through. We don't want, so you so fragile everywhere. If you were able to see that visually, it's funny to visualize. We're walking around with these hooks on our body that anybody can attach to and just pull you out the game. You have to have an armor. You have to be foolproof. And if you know where you hooked, you got to be actively working on that shit. Because you know that you're one situation away. One situation away. One road rage incident away. One angry customer away. And if you don't understand where you hooked, and if you are not actively working on unhooking yourself, then don't matter what you build, no matter how high. Think about you building a sandcastle. No matter how high of a sandcastle you build on the beach, you one situation away from it all crashing down. One situation. there are things that I know I'll crash out for, but hopefully they're so extreme they never happen. Everything else, I'm working on it. Abasua?
The question is about hooked, and you know, you have a team. You guys all have teams that you work with. You have employees, and if you see, you know, one of your team members who gets hooked or responds to certain things, do you, as the leader of your organization, is that your responsibility to point that out? If you intend to keep working on the team, and how do you point that out if that's a thing?
Absolutely. Again, business is 180% what? Psychology. So as a leader, part of your job is psychology to your employees, to the people who work with you, around you, on yourself. So if we've been reading these books and expanding our minds and understanding how to work on ourselves, there's a good chance that you can see it in other people. So when you see things happen and you see somebody getting hooked, it's part of your responsibility to bring that person in and try to help that person see it. Because guess what? Their hook is costing you money. Nana gives an example a lot of times. He gave this same example a few times when his staff had an issue with white men. And he was like, y'all better cut that shit out because you're going to fuck my money up. So, no, let's undo that. So, it's part of the responsibility to help smooth out or to at least bring awareness first and try to work with that. We say that we working through it all the time. I'm watching all the time personality clashes, situations, occurrences, where people buckle under pressure. Like there's certain times of the year that at least two people cry in my office, two people. And it used to be three, but now that person's better, right? So now it's a certain time of year where now we're down to one cry a year, and it's the busiest month of the year. And it's like, cool, like y'all are improving. Let's keep working. Next slide. I think, is that? All right, let's read this and then we out.
Tight, seeing red, blacked out, stubborn to a fault, salty, bitter, big mad, road rage, jealous rage, over competitive, right and wrong rage, hooked.
Some of you in this class, me too. I had this bad. I still got some of it. If we're in a debate and you say something that I know is wrong, I gotta say no. I gotta. That's not right. No, that's not right. I'm wrong. No, you're wrong. I'm right. Oh, hold on. It's almost like something in me can't hold back. It has to regulate the shit. It has to make it right. You're hooked. That's one version of being hooked. No, that's not right. No. I got to stop you right there. I got to stop you right there. No. Hold on. No. Hooked. You'll do it to any fucking body.
The kids.
A kid or a king, the president or a 2-year-old. You do it to anybody. You're hooked. Who cares about right and wrong? You want to be rich or right? Who cares? So we're going to start here next week. And because there's so much more to this. We'll start it next week. And then we'll continue and get through. We've been on this same slide deck for 3 classes. All right, but it's necessary. It's good shit. So we had to. So
did you cover the traditional self-help when I went to the restroom, or did you cover?
We ain't got there.
Oh, you skipped that one and get the hook. Let's go back. It's the one that said traditional self-help.
Oh,
You guys
yeah,
did
yeah,
do
yeah,
it?
We did it. We did last.
Okay, all right, go back and watch and see what happened.
It wasn't. I had to speed through. I was trying to get through all the slides.
Hey man, I think you should come back to that one so we can, because that's full of levels.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a breath real quick. I just want to make sure for those online, those of you who are participating, watching the whole class, please try to donate to the class. We are 501c3, so if you have donated and you need a receipt, we can provide you a receipt for your donation. Number two is that when you donate to this class, you're donating towards a solution. This class is really designed to create solutions, not to sit around and complain, fuss, or point out what's wrong. We know it's hella shit wrong. It's gonna be more by the time I get through talking, but this class is designed for us to be part of the solution. So make sure you participate in donation. Now, with that being said, I hate court again because somehow we talk about the same shit. So, and we don't even talk to the week about this. That's what's so cool. Like I might call them about some other stuff, but we ain't not talking about what we're gonna teach in class. So I'm gonna come at it from a different angle, but I'm like, I'll be damned. Sometimes I just want him like to talk about giraffes. I talk about like cows or something. We just on two different sides, but somehow we're in the same goddamn category. This week, next slide. So I'm gonna pause liminal thinking. I promised you guys a month ago that these next 3 months are going to be full of a lot of strategy. And liminal thinking, one is tapping into the work of Chris Argyris. I can't say his name for shit. But he's a Harvard professor with 13 degrees. And the book Liminal Thinking is kind of, which masterfully doing, which is taking his work and simplifying it so you guys can chew on it. But he also doesn't double down on some things that I think are relevant to our community, our performances in business world, and so forth and so on. So what I'm going to discuss tonight broadly addresses what I commonly deal with in this class there's two common problems we face especially in this class, but especially when I walk around and talk to almost every black entrepreneur. There's two major glaring problems, and I don't want to. When I mention these problems, please do not associate black culture flaws, right? Because, man, the more you understand life is really complex, and if you continue to, stack problems and stress and trauma on top of each other, after a while the output is kind of weird, right? So, and I don't want us to kind of, because I noticed that a lot of times when I came from the pro-black movement, the militant side, and I used to hold us responsible for a lot of bad black cultural behavior. They said, why? I said, because we told black people that white people were superior and that black people be fucking up. So are you surprised your children date white kids? Like we almost primed the conversation in our intent to try to point out things because we framed it as black people were bad and white people were superior. That's what we were suggesting in that conversation. So now you surprised your son wants the white girl across the room? Well, we kind of sold that story unintentionally. So I want to make sure that when I mention what I'm about to mention moving forward, I'm not creating an unintentional effect. Two things we suffer from. One is tunneling. So we sometimes see our situation as the only situation that's happening in the world. Our oppression is the only oppression. What happened? We're the only people that's had hard times, rough times, bad times, whatever. That's one of the most. That's the soft one, and the big one is defensive thinking. We're so damn defensive. It's unimaginable. The first time I had a chance to witness the impact of defensive thinking was we had a class 8 years ago. And I raised this question, I said, room full of people. And I said, okay, let's look at the areas of education, economics, and housing. And I need you guys to just call out what are the problems for black people in these areas. The list could have filled this whole damn wall. It was so many suggestions. I said, okay, now, folks, let's take another hour to 30 minutes. I'm going to let you guys break away in your groups. You're the housing group. You're the economic group. And, well, the third one. But anyway, I break away for a few minutes. And I want you to come back to me with what are the solutions. Just give me some solutions. We got a whole wall full of problems. People came back in the room. I think we had 3 solutions total from all 3 groups. I mean, our brains could think about the problem really, really well. We weren't developing the mental power to solve, to think about the solution. So then the more that just really plagued me. And so every year I would try to take a stab at the challenge and the problem. And of course, because I own a behavior science organization that we go out and do a lot of research, I used some of our test cases to kind of like test certain ideas. And I'm also looking at the research. And then I came across Chris' work. And Chris did a lot of work in defensive thinking. And linear thinking, defensive thinking is pulling from the same source. So one, as far as the tunneling, this month of exercises are going to be exercises. I'm going to recommend a book instead of recommending podcasts for the homework, we're going to recommend an audio book. Do not buy this book. The audio book is way better than the written book because this is the first time somebody did an audio book so well that if you read it, it's almost like a downgrade, okay? I'm going to recommend an audio book, and the intent of this audio book is to broaden your thinking. By the time you get to this, and the whole audio book is done in a story format. It's not a very technical. It's almost like you're listening to an NPR story or something like this, right? Where they're telling these documentary type stories, but the story is going to really broaden your thinking. And by the time you get through with this book, you're going to see the world from a whole different perspective. That's one. And the other solution starts tonight, which is we're going to go through this exercise of defensive thinking. So let's get to that first slide. Shabisha, you're gonna be doing a lot of reading tonight. So, you guys, if you have any questions, I don't mind slowing this lesson down because we got to get this. You got to learn how to hear. You're gonna go through this class and you're gonna be pointing fingers like, yeah, I can see it in this person, that person, this person. It's masterful. You can see it in yourself. And when you can even, I want you to get to a point eventually where you can feel defensive thinking. Because defensive thinking, once it starts within a group structure, so you know we talked about emergence is where all the power comes for a business. Emergence is when a group of individuals with diverse backgrounds get together and work on a problem and they produce a solution that no individual within that group can produce by themselves. So it makes the group itself seem like it's a superpower because the group becomes more powerful than every property within the group, right? But guess what destroys that process? Defensive thinking. If you're extremely defensive and you bring a group of people who are like 1 or 2 defensive people in that room, they don't have to be mean spirited. They don't have to be that typical like revolutionary Cat Brooks type person that everything gets on their nerves. I did call that name out on purpose. But they have to be in a situation where as a defensive thinker is a person that they don't even know they're being defensive. We had dinner with somebody who, one of the most beautiful spirits we know. And everything she continued to, as she would engage our questions or our conversation, she continued to have a defensive stance that she wasn't even aware of. And honestly, I haven't met too many people who have taken a defensive stand that was aware of the defensive stand. And if you're not aware of it, you don't realize how you're compromising your team production, your personal production, your family structure, and everything. But before we go there, I want to ask you a quick question because there's something that was bothering me, and I have a philosophical question. Question to you guys. Can you fix government? Can government be fixed?
What do you mean by fix?
What is the word fix? You fix your car, right? What the fuck do you mean? What does it mean fixed? Can government be fixed? Didn't Donald Trump fix it? Okay, wrong timing. Okay, so can government be fixed? Go ahead, grab a microphone. Let's take about 5 minutes in responses.
I feel like that is a question that's based on perspective because fixed to who? Like everyone is going to have a different lens on what is right and wrong. And fixed to me, I think about something like set in stone and permanent, and government has to flex with the times, the people, the purpose, and like what their end outcome needs to be. If they're rigid, they'll collapse anyways.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yes, government can be fixed in the aspect that there is nothing wrong with government, and what needs to be fixed is the strategy. And so the strategies can always be improved.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, how did you guys be? I swear, guys, like they just pull on microphones like this. Like, how many microphones do we have? Yeah, like this is it. Like, y'all real smooth with it, boy. Y'all do these behind the back passes. Here you go.
That word it's not registering as it can be applied to government to me. So it's not necessarily like a yes or a no. The way I'm looking at government is like this as a system that can always be improved, but it's a system, so it'll always change over time. So you can't just fix it, because as people change, then you're gonna always be trying to adjust for what's happening, culture what's happening. You know,
I make it easier
levels.
for you. Let's shrink it for you. Can your relationships be fixed?
Can it be fixed? I don't believe so. And I'm saying it in the same way as nothing today is going to be the same tomorrow. So whatever you do today, something is going to change tomorrow, and you're going to have to learn how to adjust to it. So fixing it, I don't know if that's a term that could be applied to it. Improving, I like that, but fixing is a finite thing. It's fixed, it's done, it's never done. So.
Anybody else? So let me ask you a question then. Let me throw out this, just play with this a little bit longer, a little bit further. But doesn't most of society discuss fixing? Fixing your children, fixing your relationship, fixing the culture, fixing government? Go ahead.
I think I wanted to bring this up earlier, like when we were talking about gaslighting kids and stuff. Like sometimes I feel like hitting the concrete for the kids, like that's more about the parents wanting to feel like good people than wanting the kids to have like strategy to be able to cope. Like I think about my niece getting to use her arms. She's learning how to use her arms, and because she got a reaction when she hit someone, now she hits. So she doesn't know necessarily that it's right or wrong, but we put a judgment on her of like, oh, stop hitting, stop doing that. She doesn't know. She's just using what she has. So I feel like in terms of like fixation, like I feel like we can have fixations, like we can have things that we want to fix around the government, but it's really us. Like government is a thing. Government is what it is. It's our relationship. It's us that would need to change our strategies, because again, interpersonally, we can work around like with people in government, but the government is not a thing I can shake hands with. So
can you fix yourself?
I mean, I don't necessarily think that the self that I am now knows exactly what to do to become the self that I would want to be to fix. I wouldn't know. Like fixing is a nebulous concept that you would have to, like you're saying, like you would have to nail something down that's finite, and I don't think we exist in finite situations. So no, I guess. No.
I was just going to add that I feel like when I think about, when you ask that question, like, can government be fixed? My boiled down version of what I think government is a system to manage people with nuanced beliefs and needs. And so, of course, there's so many more complications to that, but it's like there's a bigger ecosystem that we have to plug into to all coexist, or there's chaos, or humans kill each other. It's like our evolution. And so I think that the struggle is the word fixed, because it comes off as like this just permanent cement space. And for humans that are constantly changing, evolving, I think that the answer is just no.
Right, but haven't you heard people say, well, if I just get married or have my kids, or if I just get this job, or if I just get $1 million, if I get $5 million, right? Isn't that a suggestion that things are fixed? I became rich.
Josh.
Right? If I was taller, shorter, thinner, or thicker, right? The suggestion is fixed. Yo, Josh, come. Somebody got a microphone, Josh.
Josh signal way over there instead of just saying, Shabisha, can you give me the mic?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think you asked three different questions, because one is personal, one is interpersonal, and one is the macro, the community. I think the personal one, can you fix yourself? The answer is yes. If you see something not working or broken about you, you can take action to do that. If you deal with a relationship, you can try to fix it, but it depends on the other person too. But if you talk about a government, now luck is involved because there's so many different moving pieces in there. Not one person can change it because you don't have control over how a group of people are voting and another group of people are making laws and learning how to do deals with power.
So let me go ahead and answer the question. You can't fix none of the above. You, yourself. You know why? Because everything's always changing. Right now, there's something failing in your body. Within growth is you're gonna break something as you grow, right? You can always improve, but you have to have tolerance. You have to have tolerance. Meaning that government is never gonna be fixed. It's not possible. It's not. Government lives in a continuum. Culture lives in a continuum. You live in a continuum. That means because you live in a continuum, everything is random and is always changing. The future is not a copy of the past. It's not a copy and paste. Everything's always evolving. There's intersection of complexity that's happening where you're meeting new people, new challenges, new goals, right? If you think you can fix yourself, you're probably living in a very timid, damaged world where you're secluded and you don't talk to nobody, deal with nobody, work at the same job, don't want nothing different. And even then, the reality is that you probably are too hard on yourself because you're a perfectionist. There's no such thing as a fixed relation. This goes back to everything he was talking about, right? Why is this tiny tweak of analysis, going back to what he's talking about, so important? Because most of us moved as if we were going to fix something. Give you an example. So my staff, I go into a meeting with my staff. I said, hey, listen, we finish projects with a client and we act like as if we fixed the problem. The problem is that the client is a continuum. So are we underserving the client? Should we be working on a continuous relationship with the client more than fixing the problem of the client? That means our conversations will be different, our inquiries will be different, our relationship will be different. But when we're trying to fix something, what we do is we fix it and go, oh my God, because we fixed it, you're going to value us and call us next time. But we underserve the continuum. All of us are on you being here today, as you're trying to fix everything, you forget you're going to die and your children are your continuum. And you're over-investing in your story, not realizing your story is connected to their story and the stories after, and you're the extension of the past stories. So you're part of a continuum, but when you fix, you almost become a narcissist. You're like, oh, it's all about what I feel, what I'm going through, seriously? Okay, I'm 57. I know my game's gonna be over. I'm hopefully in 40 years, 50 years, whatever, right? That means it's getting to a point where it's the young man's job now. So if I say, y'all should be doing this, maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they're going to go to this way and I'm trying to go that way, right? We're all in this continuum. If you're in a relationship, you can't fix your partner. You have to have tolerance for your partner. Now, there's a point when it gets outside of tolerance, you're like, all right, you're doing way too much. Right? But if you have this very narrow, like if I'm with somebody, they gotta do this, they gotta do that, they gotta look like this, gotta move like this, they can't do this, they can't gain this much weight, then you're too fixed. Can you live in a world where things are imperfect and it's perfect for you? Because you realize human beings, how can government be perfect when the people working there are imperfect? How can government be perfect when communication can never be perfect? How can government be perfect when there's there's a diversity of challenges and problems that people don't know the answer and they're patching the best they can, which means that when that problem goes away, you now have an imperfect system still in place. There's so much there. Once you so if you're running your business and you're trying to make everything perfect, you're not running your business. Going back to what Sister was saying earlier, it's more important to progress your business than perfect your. No, I don't think it was her. Somebody else. But it's more important to progress online. It's more important for you to progress your business than to perfect your business. Now, progression there's still standards. We're not removing standards. We're not removing hard work. We're not removing quality. We're not removing competition and merit. What I'm saying is that some of you guys will get stuck on a single detail because you're trying to make things perfect in an imperfect world. Or, so the other day I was talking to a friend of mine. He says, Nana, how many perfect employees do you have? And I say, I don't know if there's even a decent answer for that dumbass question. He said, wait, what? A good system should be able to run with C employees and produce A outputs. If you get all A employees to get A output, that means an A member can compromise the whole infrastructure. But if I can build a system that can run on C-level employees and produce A outputs, that means I can interchange people if people, for whatever reason, needs to be switched up and the system can still maintain its consistency. The market should not feel my internal management dips and highlights. It should feel this consistency experience. So as a person building a company, it's important for me to build a system embracing the imperfections. But there is still a tolerance, right? There's a point where your behavior can start costing me money or it could start causing damage to the team. I gotta let you go. But to expect Harvard level A pluses from all your employees is not even scalable or sustainable. It's not a thing. So, and if you think about that, what I just told you guys is that you can work with black people. Some of y'all won't fuck with black people because y'all looking for A's and not realizing that you have the C plus in your backyard. The problem is not the person in your backyard, it's the system you designed. So let's jump into this class. All right, y'all ready? Any questions before I jump into that any further? Any challenges to that point? Go ahead, Josh. Yeah, you were quiet. Also, now you got a lot of shit to say, but that's good. I'm glad you got something to say.
So how does this work with addiction then? Can you fix addiction?
Tolerance. It's a tolerance, right? So what I'm saying is that with everything, it's a tolerance. There's a certain point when you're outside my tolerance, I can't work with you, right? Just like if somebody has serious mental health problems, I'm not going to try to do anything with that. That's outside of the company's tolerance, outside my time tolerance. You know, I think there's this big distortion that we can fix people.
We can.
And the reality is that we're like tugboats in this world. We can nudge them and allow them to set their sail, but we don't have enough resources to drag people through the process. So if I meet somebody that's in addiction space, that's your responsibility to work on that, right? And that's outside your personal tolerance. Addiction is going outside your personal tolerance because everybody knows addiction means that you're compromising. It's an opportunity cost, right? For your addiction is eating up opportunities left and right to the point that your life is actually diminishing return. It's going the opposite direction, right? So addiction is a loss. So when somebody's having an addiction experience, then yes, that's something that needs to be addressed, needs to be worked on. And I'm not arguing with you. I don't think you were interchanging two phrases. Can government improve? Yes. Can relationships improve? Yes. Can you improve? Yes. But can you fix you? No. So earlier when Court made the example of the child falling, right? What I wanted to say, the answer to that question is really complex. I would do exactly what Court would say, which I do to my daughter all the time. Come on, get up, let's go. I'm trying to raise her pain tolerance. Keyword is tolerance. When you let that pain tolerance go too low because you're so busy, everything needs to be paid attention to, her tolerance is too low, right? We're all going to experience, life is about pain. All the things we won't go, look, all of us are here because our mamas chose pain. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, I don't give a shit if she took the needle in her back to avoid them. But the process of her just going, if you ever watch a pregnant woman in the last few months, man, we already running the opposite way. I promise you. Some stuff I saw my wife go through, I was like, I went quiet like a ghost in the room, like, don't see me, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. That shit was real, right? And the doula's like, breathe. I'm like, I would be like, yo, put me out, get this baby out, whatever. I'm not the person. Okay. Everything that we value in this life comes through the channel of pain. So the early stages, as a man, I talked to my brother about this. I said, you know one of the number one responsibilities of a man is to introduce safe friction for my family. So when they get in the real world, they can handle friction. So now, mind you, in some cases, me and my wife will balance each other, because sometimes I might be the one like, oh, my daughter, oh my God. My wife will be like, baby, let that shit go. Right? And vice versa, right? There's certain times I'm like, yo, let that shit go. It doesn't mean that there's certain times we also stop and like, yo, cry on my shoulder. What's going on? Let's talk about it. There's a balance of it. It's just that we're over leveraging feelings and over leveraging emotions. And really, we should be teaching a child, move past it. Don't stop. No, everything in your life can always feel good. You're going to have some bad days. Just walk through that shit. That's what life is about. Walk through the bad days. So it's this thing of life is about tolerance. It's not about absolute or good and bad fix. The problem with the word fix is that it's going to break all of us. It's no such thing. It's no such thing. And it also causes procrastination. Because when you're trying to fix something over and over, guess what ain't getting done? Projects die while you're trying to fix shit. Shit dies when you're trying to fix shit. Like your relationship with your children will die because you're trying to fix them. How many people know they don't talk to their family members because somebody's trying to fix somebody and they, fuck them then. We got a whole family get together. Nobody wants to see each other because they can't fix each other. As opposed to, I told my wife when her father died, who was the alpha of the family, I said, you know what's scary? The alpha male just died. And you know what happens when you're the alpha of the family? You got to hold everybody's flaws and still keep the family together. You know everybody's flaws. The alpha member of your family knows everybody's fucking flaws, and they still make sure y'all get together and have peaceful dinner together and love on each other as a family. That person is practicing tolerance. Some of y'all still don't want to talk to your sister because she didn't go with some ideas you thought because it fell outside of your tolerance. Sometimes you need to expand your tolerance. Human beings are, my daughter, when she makes a mistake, she goes, Dad, I made a mistake. I said, no, you're just being human. So let's work on this solution. It's human shit. That's all it is, just human shit. Everybody in this room makes mistakes. And it's so funny because we all become perfect judges. When we're judging others, we're so perfect. Oh, that's ridiculous what they're doing. Oh my God. And then this is what happens. Because you're such a perfect judge, you're scared to walk in your truth. You always walk in a lie because you're trying to be perfect to everybody else because you don't want people judging you the way you judge others. So anyway, let's jump into this Chris shit because this is about to get fire. This is about to be fire.
It's already fire.
Hey man, look here, I got some shit I want to talk about. Okay, let's jump into it. Let's do it.
Okay, Chris Argyris's defense reasoning. Defense reasoning, a deep dive. Chris Argyris introduced defensive reasoning as a key barrier to organizational learning and change. Mm-hmm. It occurs when individuals or organizations protect themselves from embarrassment, threat, or change by avoiding self-reflection, critique, or admitting mistakes. This leads to a cycle of ineffective learning and stagnation.
So Chris also argued in one of his books that the fastest way to destroy a business is slow learning. In our culture, if you read all those along, if you said, okay, have you seen us get defensive because we're trying to protect ourselves? Have you seen us get defensive because of embarrassment? Have you seen us get defensive because of threat? Have you guys seen us get defensive because of change? Have you seen us being defensive by avoiding self-reflection, feedback? Have you seen us being defensive over critique? Y'all know goddamn well, try to critique black people. You know we ain't having it. You know, critique is such a necessary must for us to expand past ourselves. And it can almost get you shot in the streets. And also admitting mistakes. Yeah, but. I mean, what about time when you did? Right? This leads to a cycle of ineffective learning and stagnation. Let's think about that real quick. People just sit there. If you black, anybody that think that you've been oppressed, even poor white people, same principles. Next slide.
Understanding defensive reasoning. Defensive reasoning arises when individuals or organizations justify actions instead of questioning.
So real quick, this one, I think the first one alone, I can almost do a whole class on, but I'm not. I can almost summarize it so you guys get the point. I can't tell you how many times somebody says, Nana, can you talk to me about my business? And as I explained to them my insight, after I've sat with them or listened to them talk for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes an hour, and I will start to highlight the facts, that not their feelings, but the facts that I was able to extract from the dialogue. They would say, but what we did, the reason we did that was because, but what? Right. That's all defensive. You're not even trying to explore, hey, where you coming from, or why did you see it that way, or let me understand what you see that I'm not seeing because I'm seeing it differently. Instead of but to the point that by the end of the conversation, all I can do is go, well, just hang in there and give them a pound and keep walking. Because you gave me no room to help you because you defend everything you're doing because there's a story behind everything. Even though the story itself is flawed, but you can't get past it. Or, you know, like I used to hate when people say, well, you know, our ancestors died for this. Okay, then you're shutting down communication. Because what you're doing is you're putting this heavy ass weight on my shoulders, which says if you say anything else, you're saying fuck your ancestors. My mama helped me out with this, or you know, my mother helped me with produce this idea, and we went with this up all night last night. We came to the conclusion this was a great strategy. What do you think, Nana? Oh man, mom's cool. She make that cake tomorrow. See you later. I'm out. I'm not doing that with you because it's defensive. You got to even know how to ask a question to get an offensive response because the solution falls in an offensive space. But we don't. We start the conversation with just but. Next one.
Blame external factors instead of looking inward.
Racism, white supremacy, education, woman, man, gender height, my feet are fucked up. I don't know what the fuck you want to call it. Something. External. It's always something external. My employees, the customers. You know how people are sometimes. Folks just don't understand me. This is all defensive. This means nothing to strategic dialogue. Matter of fact, this stops the conversation in this tracks. Next one.
Avoid uncomfortable truths by shutting down inquiry.
So you're talking to somebody and they hit that space. They hit that point. And you're like, well, cool. I don't really want to talk about that part. Can we just stay focused on this over here? Or they just kind of like, thanks, I appreciate that. Thank you. And then call should be shoved. That fucking Nana, he hurt my feelings. He over there bringing up shit. He ain't supposed to talk about that. What do you mean I'm not supposed to talk about that? I thought we had a problem we're trying to solve. Your uncomfortable truths. Go ahead.
Reinforce existing beliefs rather than challenging them.
Look, man, in my religion, in my belief, I know what I know. This is my experience. This is who I am. This is how I see the world. This is my foundation. You shutting down communication. There's no communication. I can't do nothing with you. You stop your growth because you're anchoring. Okay, going back to the learning pyramid, your experience is only a small part of reality. It's not reality. Within your experience, you only had a narrow line of attention. So now you see them on top of the small areas of experience and a narrow line of attention, and now you're making the strongest argument of this is who I am. What do you mean this is who I am? I thought you was trying to change. Who you are right now is broke. So you just what you want to do? So let's just keep it real. What are you trying to be here? If you want to stay the way you are, then stay broke and leave me the fuck alone. Right? But the reality is that you sit at my doorstep saying, let's discuss me changing to move my life forward, but you can't change none of this shit right here. Because this is what I believe. This is who I am. This is my foundation. Do you realize, going back to the book I'm going to recommend for the homework, a lot of us are stuck in tunnel beliefs that are at the foundation of this complex thinking that we call strategy. I mean that you are so amazed at your complexity of thought, and it is complex. It is excellent. I mean, it is almost beautiful to witness, but it's built on the wrong foundation. And if the foundation can't be touched, I don't give a fuck how many times we put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. So you're so defensive, your foundation can't be discussed.
Right.
Your foundation, why you here, what your mama told you, your belief in God, your belief in the world, your belief in... You ever been going through some shit? And you go to a friend, you're like, man, I'm going through some shit. And the person goes, oh, that's nothing. All you have to do is this. They lower the stress because they say it's normal to you. And you go, oh, it's just normal. And your brain instantly starts to solve the problem. Some of y'all beliefs are so rich that your stress is out of context. Mm-hmm. You don't see the rest of the world. You don't see things. And you don't understand that what you're going through is just part of the norm. Mm-hmm. And it's something that you got to just build a muscle for. Mm-hmm. Instead, you see it as an injury. And a lot of times because you won't have that discussion and the person's talking to you, I promise you, when I'm talking to the person, I can sense that area. I'm thinking, ooh, I don't know if I want to talk about this today. I got to literally sit down and decide, do I want to sit here and possibly gain an argument and lose my relationship with you because I know this is an area that you have tied your personal value to, and you already don't feel like you're good enough. So if I challenge this area, I'm gonna reinforce the idea that you're not good enough by your definition of your story. Although that's not my intent. My intent is to challenge the information that's on the table. And yet, because there's so much of your personal value invested, so much of your experience invested, so much of your you invested, if I challenge those ideas, you think I'm discounting you. That's defensive. That's extremely defensive. I had a friend of mine, I told him, I said, if we have one more discussion and you put your value on trial one more time, then leave me the fuck out of these discussions. I'm not challenging your fucking value. Your value is never, if my heart is too big for black people, especially when black people come to me. Well, I love people, but especially black people. If a black person comes to me and say, Nana, how do we solve this problem? I don't have any malice in my heart. I have no desire to break you, hurt you, damage you, destroy you, reduce your growth, reduce your shine, suppress your growth or anything, or make you inferior to me. I don't have no ego that says, matter of fact, I get ecstatic when people shine brighter than I do. But somehow your brain don't share that same story. You don't even check in with me. You just instantly turn into a meaning-making machine because you're uncomfortable. Because why? You have defensive training. Now, mind you, where does defensive training come from? Black people, you know where it comes from. We've been defending ourselves for a long ass time. But the problem is we normalize it. Our mamas and our daddies taught to us very defensive. We don't even have anybody modeling offensive thinking for us. So this is one of the things that when you build a business on a defensive foundation, this is why your business gets to a certain point and it crumbles or it stops. Because your defensive thinking is undermining your efforts, not the outside world. There is no obstacle any man can build that's not surmountable. There's no such thing as racism that's not surmountable. There's no such thing as a nation that's not surmountable. Everything is surmountable, but defensive thinking, a fucking pebble's is too tall.
Mm-hmm. Is defensive thinking is that the same thing as individualism?
Let's keep going, because I don't know,
Okay.
but let's keep going. Okay, next slide.
The cycle of defensive reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Problem or failure occurs. Something goes wrong in an organization or personal decision.
So, when these are things that will spark defensive thinking, right? So something goes wrong in an organization or personal decision. When things go wrong, do you go to, is it an offensive thought or is it a protective thought? Are you defending something or are you thinking how to move something forward? Are you thinking about doubling down, cutting something off and stopping? Or are you thinking about how can you move beyond this point? Like, how are you embracing that space? These are things that spark defensive thinking. Next one.
Defensive response. Instead of examining assumptions, people deny responsibility, blame others, or rationalize the failure.
So let's again, let's read that one more time.
Instead of examining assumptions, people deny responsibility, blame others, or rationalize the failure.
Okay, tell me Target thing. Can you see it in Target? The Target boycott at all? Does anybody know why Target removed DEI in details? Or is it just assumption? When we say defund the police, do you know why they were committing that crime, or was it an assumption? Like, think about a lot of things that we move in society. How many times are we assuming and we're filling the space in with those comfortable assumptions because we're going, yeah, I've seen this shit before. I know what this is. See, this is what, especially people who subscribe to a group of beliefs or a certain form of group that has a group of biases, right? So, for example, to like say to the man with a hammer, everything's a nail, right? So, how many times are you assuming? We won't get further into assumptions as we go further, but assumptions is a powerful ass thing. You know, assumptions is the opposite of first principle thinking, right? A person who over assumes. First principle thinking is this principle that when you want to solve a problem, break it all the way down to what you absolutely know only, and then build from there. We don't realize that we are an assuming animal. So a lot of times when we upset, like for example, a lot of times, how many times have you been mad at somebody and realized the culprit was your assumption, not the person in front of you? Right? Like a lot of times we will fill in what we don't know with assumptions. We won't even grab ChatGPT or Google and say, hey, what is this? We just make some assumptions and then allow that assumption to sit next to the facts to only corrupt the fact and corrupt the outcome. So a lot of times in our defensive response, going back to that piece, it says, instead of examining assumptions, which is stop when you feel something, the first thing you should do when you feel something is pay attention to what am I assuming right now? I'm assuming this person doesn't like me. I'm assuming this person is disrespecting me. Okay, let's just keep it 100 because you guys are some intelligentsia or whatever you want to call it. You guys are hella smart. That person made me feel some kind of way. Y'all know that's the most common shit black people say in our community all the time. I feel some kind of way when she said this. Oh, he was disrespecting me. Was that his intent or is that what you felt? Is that an assumption? That person doesn't care. Is that your assumption or is it what that person's intent? Do you ever ask the fucking question? Man, I feel like what you said last week hurt me. Was that your assumption or was that my intent? Because I'm sorry, I can't. Your personal feelings sometimes can be like glass. You know, everywhere you step, I'm breaking something, right? And so at some point, you got to be able to measure the people's intent and say they're not trying to hurt me, they're not trying to betray me, they're not trying to take money out of my pocket. I had a situation where I have a person on my staff who's used to be extremely defensive. Oh boy. And they're now working on leadership. They're trying to develop leadership skills. And we were in a meeting and I challenged a project they were working on and they said, well, and they went on to say whatever they had to say. And I said, well, no, that's actually not correct. And I brought in some information. They go, well, and they went on to say. So I pulled a person aside. I said, let's go for a walk. What's going on? Right? Because I first of all, I don't want to assume. Because I'm feeling some kind of way because this person being very defensive is irritating the shit out of me. But I'm thinking to myself, let me see what's going on here. So I walk with this person. I said, what's happening here? Is something wrong? Nah, not at all. I said, oh, you weren't even aware you were using defensive words. She goes, yeah, but I wasn't being defensive. I said, wow, that's crazy because you weren't trying to be defensive, but she doesn't know any other language besides defensive language, which creates defensive outcomes. So I told her, I said, well, listen, the moment is irrelevant. Because you're a leader, you got to pay attention to those words because it does matter. But I get it. Cool. Let's move on. Right? But if I would have had assumptions, I could have walked in that room, start writing shit up. Yes, very defensive, and I'm going to put this on her review. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't do anybody no good. And I would have lost great talent. Right? But I went for a walk and I asked the question, hey, what's going on? They didn't say, hey, in that meeting you said this shit right here and I was feeling some kind of way. which what I want to do is reinforce my assumption. And then you say this shit, what the fuck's going on, right? That's me down projecting my assumption to try to validate my assumption. You see how crazy that shit is? As opposed to neutralizing my question like, hey, is everything cool? Did you feel defensive in there? No, I didn't. I said, oh, cool, because when you did this, and I know that person, if they felt defensive, they would tell me, hell yeah, I felt defensive. But it's all, assumptions can get so out of control that it becomes a third person in your, if it's two people working in the office, it becomes the third person that's breaking up the relationship, and you don't even know that you guys built it. That's how cold assumptions are. All right, next one.
Repeat the cycle. The problem persists.
No, we're in the same slide. We're going to number 3. We said reinforcement of existing beliefs. Go back. There you go.
Reinforcement of existing beliefs. The defensive mindset prevents learning, making future failures more likely.
So that's the cost of defensive culture and defensive thinking. Is because you're so busy trying to protect. This is why social justice. The reason social justice sucked so damn bad in the real world, not what it's. Okay, let me be very clear, so I'll make sure you guys not confusing, because I see there's a lot of confusion online, and being that this class is being streamed, I don't want to project the wrong message. The best way to destroy any movement is to co-opt a movement. Once you co-opt the movement, the goalposts move so many different times. We don't know what the hell we're talking about anymore, right? Social justice went from, in its early stages, good ideas. I won't argue the ideas wasn't a good intent. But once they became co-opted, it became this defensive machine that when they went inside the companies, everybody was defensive. So guess what happened with the companies? You started halting growth. You start halting progress. You start halting problem solution. You start halting innovation. So social justice became anti-innovation, communication, progress, building, structure. It was so fucking damaging, right? So defensive thinking, the reason social justice was being divorced by so many people divorced DEI, it wasn't because they divorced the idea of diversity, equity, inclusion. They divorced the system that was becoming this virus in the organization that was not being controlled enough to become something that enhances the workforce, but was actually suppressing the workforce. So a lot of times you just on the outside, they go, I'm done with DI. You're thinking, oh my God, that's an assumption. There needs to be a conversation where two people sit at the table and say, hey, why did you divorce DEI? But instead, we are over leveraging the assumption. You guys with me so far? Okay. So the cost of defensive thinking is you're preventing learning and you're repeating the same mistakes. So you're not even evolving. I'm not saying fixing, but you're not evolving. Part of evolution is learning from that's the earliest part of the conversation we just had, which is you have to sit with the problem, remove the assumptions, gain clarity so you don't find yourself back here again. Remember I told the story that when I was building my company the first 5 years, I was broke y'all don't know what broke is. I was broke. And I remember my brother called me up and said, man, you starving, bro. Let me help you out. Because I see, like, dude, you can't buy food right now. I was spending $20 a week for food, $20 a week. There's not been a time in the 2000s that $20 a week was enough. And so I was, the discount grocery store, I was buying Cornish game hens and potatoes and making that shit last, right? And the first thing I said to him was, no, you cannot give me any money because it's something I'm doing. See what I'm saying here? Meaning that I had a mental distortion of I was perfect and the world was working against me. And I realized that's nothing but a mental distortion. I just can't see what the play is. So what I realized is that I need to continue to starve until something's revealed. And guess what hunger does? It reveals like a motherfucker. It start telling you, oh, you ain't that great. That shit ain't all that tight. You ain't doing all that. And all of a sudden, I was changed by my own starvation. Right? I'm not lying. So a lot of times when we're defensive, we're protecting that ignorance loop. And we're repeating the same mistakes. And we think it's new because we think we just put some new lipstick on the pig and thought, oh, it's going to be different this time. And you think because you worked hella hard, you were entitled to a reward. Or you put hella time into it, but what you didn't do any different was you followed the same recipe, which was flawed. Next one.
Repeat the cycle. The problem persists because fundamental assumptions remain unchallenged.
Fundamental assumptions remain. So I was watching this group discuss DEI, and both sides were absolutely horrible to listen to. Both sides, they were two people of two wrong arguments because they were too busy being defensive of what they believe in, as opposed to having a discussion where we know we're going to be different in our beliefs. Like if I'm talking to you, we should be different in our beliefs. But do you know how to create the platform where differences can live and evolve into something better? Or does differences only exist when one side win? Like is the growth in your win, or is the growth in allowing the differences to exist in a healthy environment to manifest a new solution you couldn't see before? But some of you guys are so busy trying to protect your personal embarrassment, I'm smart. You're not gonna tell me I'm not smart because I'm tired of us people telling me that black people are minorities and we're not smart. So I ain't gonna have no Negro sitting in front of me telling me I'm not smart. Not realizing that wasn't smart. You're smart, but that wasn't smart. Saying something that you're doing is not smart doesn't mean that your whole being is a waste of time. like I fuck up all the time. And matter of fact, I live to see my flaws because the other side of it is I'm going to grow. I don't live to celebrate my strengths because that means I'm suppressing my growth. If all I have to do is sell you how great I'm doing, how good my business is going, that means I'm disconnected from my fucking business. You can ask me any day, hey, what's the biggest challenge of your business this week? I got something to tell you. If you got time, I'll share it. Because that's what life's really about. You ask me, what's the biggest challenge of if you saw my family from the outside, you're like, man, y'all really look like everything's perfect. I see both sides, and I'm cool with both sides because I have the tolerance. Going back to that tolerance concept. Next slide.
Imagine a startup that experiences declining sales. Instead of asking, why are our customers leaving? The leadership team responds defensively. The market is just bad right now. Customers don't understand our value. Our competitors are using unethical tactics. These responses protect egos, but prevent real learning and adaptation.
That's why radical responsibility is the coldest shit in the world in business. If your customers are leaving, you go, what are we doing wrong? What can we do different? What are opportunities we don't see? Doing wrong doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, meaning that you may not know an option that exists out there. You may have not been curious enough to discover other strategies, right? A lot of times we avoid the word wrong because we think wrong is associated with us not being good enough or us being bad. And then that trauma kicks in, and then we just halt the process. And then we turn to our peers to be like, yeah, see, customers just don't get what we're doing out here. Or we'll take one customer comes in and be like, oh, I love you guys so much. And that's why I'm here to say, see, this person sees us. Yeah, but that one person is not feeding your family. So let's cut it out. This game is not just need somebody to see me. This is not a see me opportunity. This is not social justice. This is about winning. This is about cultural alignment. If your business is not in alignment with the culture you're seeking to serve, then there's a reason the customer's not going there, coming to you. Now, we're going to get into even going further into that strategy a little bit later. Next slide.
Cons of defensive reasoning. Blocks learning. So people and organizations cannot adapt if they avoid self-examination.
So this is also how your company becomes the OG and the new company takes your place. Every business has a timeline of how long your current product is going to last in the market. Meaning that people get tired of it, they move on, trends change, customers change, desires change, cultural rhythms change, all kind of stuff change, right? Now your business is supposed to adapt to those changes to survive. Let's say you came in and it's a 10-year cycle, but you came in on the 7th year. So you may have 3 years, things are going really, really well. Matter of fact, black folks, if you've been doing business during George Floyd, you was in a cycle, right? But in that cycle, were you being defensive, protecting your position in that cycle, or were you in a state of mind of exploring that what's next, what's happening, what do we need to change next, where are we going next? If you're just kind of doubling down, working hard, thinking that if I work really, really hard and show up and promise if I deliver what I promise, the customer will reward me, which is a form of entitlement. You think the world owes you something. The world owes you nothing. Shit. Your job is to always adapt to the culture you're serving and make those adjustments, or adjust to the culture that's coming behind it or in front of it that aligns with what you're trying to serve. But it's all about adaptation. And if you're not practicing adaptation, you're defensive.
Church.
Defensive. Next one.
Creates a blame culture.
Ooh.
Sure.
Instead of solving issues, teams look for scapegoats.
Okay, I'm gonna just call it what it is. I'm black as hell. I don't need no proof. I got a black family, black company, black everything I do. That's our culture. We blame too much. Mm-hmm. You might be right. I'm not saying you're not right, but it ain't help us move the problem forward.
Bang.
Moving the problem forward is you stop blaming. You start saying, okay. It's like, okay, let me show you let me show you from a macro view what it looks like. I'm playing chess with somebody, and somebody be like, ooh, that's a cold move. All right, I quit. Yeah, white folks made a cold move on us. It's called chess. Keep making moves, baby. The game is a continuum. It never stops playing. They whooped your ass that first round. Now you just play like a loser? Or do you say, it's time to grow my strategy because I want to play this game a little stronger because that's the game of life. Look, life has a game. Poor is a person who never learns how to play the fucking game. And then act like they're entitled to a win. This game is cold. Like, you gonna get in business? Realize it's a gladiator sport. And you in there to walk around with flowers in your hand and your ear talking about, I don't understand why people don't see me. The wolves are eating. You're the first meal of the day. You're too soft for this game. And I ain't talking about soft like fighting or harsh personality, because a strong gladiator personality is actually being humble, having agility, having optionality, being curious, being a servant. Like this is what strength is in our world. That rigidity, the shit that you've been taught for black people, like we gotta be strong and hard. That shit's actually fragility. You don't win from that game. One of the craziest myths I ever heard somebody say is that's the hardest dude in the streets. I thought there's no such thing. You remember The Wire when the kid walked in and shot Omar, right? The kid shot him. Now, if they got in a boxing match, Omar would have whooped that kid's ass up and down the street 1,000 times. But a bullet takes the biggest, strongest, baddest of us. Do you realize at war, when a country loses a war, they both had bad motherfuckers? It wasn't about who had the baddest motherfuckers who won, right? It's about the person who was adapting and adjusting and learning and being humble to the process and understood the game they were playing. You gotta understand the problem with the human brain is the brain doesn't want to embrace reality. It wants to build a reality on top of reality. The key thing is, in order for you to master the game, you gotta at least understand the game you playing. And the game you playing is reality. So, when you blaming people, all you're doing is reinforcing your story as opposed to like, why is that though? Why is that? Okay, I get it. I ain't crazy about Trump either. Narcissism is crazy. And I think he got some major problems. But you still got to understand the game we're playing. Understand the game you're playing. Otherwise, you can't navigate any of these times. Because what you're trying to do is get back to a story in your mind of the way the world should be. What it should? A cognitive distortion. Next one.
Prevents innovation.
Oh my God, now black people. If you understand this is one of the most important ones, innovation, my Latino folks, you with me? Stay with me. Innovation is how you compete. Okay. Would it be bad if black people got left behind? I mean, just the world. The world left us behind. AI coming, China's online, India's online, Africa's now online. Russia will be back online. Japan has been here a long time. Would it be bad if African Americans, a large portion of our community, got left behind? You understand what that would mean to us? It's almost a form of genocide. You need innovation to stay in this game. If you run a company, try to run a company without innovation. It's hard as fuck. You will die in the face of competition. You will die in the face of change. Innovation is damn near your blood, and defensive thinking is anti that. Meaning, if every almost black person I've ever talked to, almost every black person, there's been a few that I haven't, but almost every black person I've ever talked to, almost deep down in their soul have defensive communication, thinking, processes of the world. And then you wonder why when you get in your car, you drive from here to New York, there's none of the high rise that says, man, look at that beautiful black business that all the black people are working at, doing amazing stuff for black culture. Like, that's a fantasy right now for us. That's sad. That should be our norm. White people get in cars and drive from New York to Oakland and go, look at that company we built. Look at that government. Look at that system. Look at the water and the flow and look at that. Oh my God. What is stopping it? It's not purely racism. Racism is a tool, but it's like chess. It's a strong ass move, but there's another strong move to outmaneuver that move. You gotta know that. You gotta know that. Racism is just, if you're an entrepreneur, there's always somebody's trying to get in your way. It's called competition. Competition is trying to take your space. Competition be like, oh, wait, you went first. Go ahead. My bad. Let's just play it fair. Competition is trying to take you down all the time. So when racism show up, you thinking, sit your ass down. Everybody else get in line. Shit, everybody else trying to take my place. So at the end of the day, the blame game is direct attack upon our ability to just stay alive and grow and expand. Keep going. Did you read the description?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
So if new ideas challenge existing beliefs, they are dismissed.
What kind of ideas?
New ideas challenge existing beliefs.
So go back to this. Your company has these strong beliefs for how things should be, and a new idea comes in the room, and you dismiss it. Y'all, okay, black women, y'all know y'all seen this. Y'all been in the office before, because a lot of times, so I've had a chance, because I work with powerful women, I get a chance to see how men and women think about things differently. Forget that gender neutrality. There's some differences. We can look at the same problem, and it's just almost like when you read a history book, you realize you're reading a perspective, right? So if a building blows up, you may pay attention to the fire. I may pay attention to the bricks and the rocks flying everywhere. Somebody may pay attention to the smoke. Somebody may pay attention to the falling of the building. Somebody may pay attention to the lives that were lost, right? But we have different perspectives for different motivations for different reasons. Have you ever been in a room and you went to mention an idea and people are like, yeah, that's not what we're talking about. Let's stay in this lane over here. And I'm not talking about, like, you know, if you got mental health problems, we're not talking about you. But we're talking about how a company doesn't really want to let in another idea. Or have you ever met a strong leader that's part of a movement or part of a business, and you really can't get into it? You can't really talk to them about anything outside of what they don't or do believe in. You try to bring up any subject outside of what they believe in, they're going to almost crush you, because they'll use the leverage to crush your conversation. Because at the end of the day, if you're not agreeing with me, you're working against me. That's called defensive. That will kill you. Keep going.
Sorry. Go back. It's freezing. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Leads to repetitive failures. Since underlying causes are ignored, the same mistakes happen.
Next one.
Encourages organizational stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
Companies that don't evolve fall behind in competitive markets.
Mm-hmm. So in competitive market, this is the nature of all business. If your business grows, the greater the competition. If your business grows and you're defensive, you almost kill yourself before you get a chance to enjoy your growth. Go ahead.
Damages trust and collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
People avoid honest conversations for fear of conflict.
You could never be defensive towards me, and the way you talk about others let me know I'm not going to talk to you about that shit. If I watch you chop somebody's head off, and I watch you chop, like, for example, I have a family member, and she's known to cut people's necks off. No one talks to her, ever. Ever. If you talk to her, you're like, I'm standing in line, right? And it's one of my family members, I barely ever see her. So chance of her watching this class is very slim, even though she could. But she knows she is and she watches it. But a lot of times she's so defensive that when she goes to people like, hey, what do you think I should do in this move in my career? The first thing we goes, oh, yeah, good idea. I mean, what do you want to do? Shit. I'm not the one. I'm going to eat my dinner and go to bed. Like, it's just not going to happen. But she doesn't realize her defensive rhythms has smothered communication. If you have a staff that's not giving you communication, if you work with a staff and they're not constantly giving you communication, your defensive nature is creating a defensive culture that's not uploading the problems on the front line. The most important person in a business is your front line. That's the person everybody's going to see. But the person on the front line never uploads their ideas to management because you create all these defensive barriers for anything to get back to you. Don't come to me, talk to that person, and talk to that person, and that person's scared to talk to me because they know I'm going to chop their head off. Means it never really gets back to me. How are things going? Oh, things are going great. Lisa, she's improving. Things are working out wonderful. You don't realize that in order for you to fix your organization defensive behavior, you got to first fix your own defensive behavior. Because all your organization is a copy of you. So if you're defensive, and defensive doesn't mean people walk around like mean mugging like the NWA. Defensive, everybody can be smiling all the time, just won't cross a line. That's what's up. Have you ever been in a social justice circle? Everybody's fragile, soft, respectful. Oh my God, I don't want to offend nobody. But they're all defensive. Ain't nobody talking about nothing. We got a girl right here dying of diabetes. We be like, oh, she's great, she's fabulous. Don't judge her, don't see her. My partner called me, who used to be 300 some odd pounds, like 375, I think it was. And he's only like 5'6", 5'7". Damn. And he said to me, fuck you. I said, what do you mean, fuck you? He said, you motherfuckers didn't tell me I was fat. I said, what do you mean? He goes, this whole time I thought I was a size medium. Because his brain you can't see yourself. But when you don't have everybody defensive around you, they're not going to help you see yourself. And they will watch you to your death because you're too defensive. You got to be able to, you got to welcome the feedback. You got to design your world where you got people around you who be able to say, hey, Yapasu, I don't know about that shit. It's retarded. Oh, wait, you said retarded. See, this is why I can't talk to you now because this is unnecessary. Fuck is wrong? Defensive. Right? As opposed to like, damn, why would you say that? What do you see? But that whole trying to, if somebody comes to you, it doesn't mean they're right. But if that person is first of all, should have value. If you have a whole bunch of superficial people around your life, you probably did that because you're defensive. But if you put valuable people in your life, then what they're doing is trying to help you brainstorm. That's it. Right or wrong. They can be absolutely not have no insight, but they can at least disrupt your thinking for you to produce another possibility. But somebody who's defensive, you're just locking it down to what you're comfortable with. You want the world to work the way you want it to work, not you adjust to the way the world works. You think you were the alpha and omega and the world just got here. Next one. Oh, so trust. Also to defensive people, gossiping is a sign of defensive behavior. When you get a very defensive environment, it's going to breed gossiping because nobody's scared to talk. So they'll find someone I'm comfortable with, be like, hey, let me talk to you, Court. That should be sure. She be tripping like a motherfucker. You notice that too? And we start damaging relationships quietly. So nobody intentionally does it, but the environment is so defensive, we start to corrode our internal group relationship, meaning the team doesn't even work well as a team because we don't really like each other. Because the overall culture is so defensive, we can't even bond because we can't even speak openly. In my office, you should be able to say, well, whatever the fuck you need to say about a project, no matter how extreme it may sound. You could be like, no, I think your pictures sucked. And I think that's why it didn't work. Well, can you give me some insight? Right? But if I could be like, well, what about your weak ass pictures? Okay, now we're never going to get anywhere. But no. But the reason I did is because what I was thinking, and when I shot them, this is what you ain't going to get anywhere. Oh, you know what? I tried the best. My client, we ain't going to get anywhere. All that shit is defensive. Go ahead, next one.
how to overcome defensive reasoning. The antidote to defensive reasoning is to foster a mindset and culture that embraces learning, self-reflection, and openness. These approaches counteract defensiveness.
Go to the next slide, because we'll take each one of these slides for a separate slide. Go to the next slide. Go ahead, hit the first one.
Productive reasoning. Instead of justifying actions, ask, what can we learn from this? An example would be sales are declining. What assumptions have we made about our customers that need reevaluation?
I mean, that you don't realize when you build a business, you're making assumptions even about your customers. When sister asked about her mother selling an item for $150, her mother's making an assumption about the market. She's making an assumption about the value of this product. It's all assumptions. That's all it is, right? Even if she says, Mama, I think it's worth this, it's still an assumption. Now, once it's tested, it is what it is. The market will give you the honest truth, right? But when something's not working, we need to go back to the assumption. There's nothing wrong with our assumptions, but we got to be able to know that the assumption is the place you start when something's not working. Go back to the assumption. Next one. Go to the next slide.
Double loop learning.
Oh, I'm gonna teach a whole class for this, but go ahead. We'll surface it.
Instead of focusing on how to fix problems, ask, why do these problems exist in the first place?
Think about this. If we ask ourselves how to fix certain problems in society, and we ask ourselves, well, why do they even exist in the first place? You'll find sometimes you shouldn't be spending resources on this particular solution. Maybe this solution is a waste of our time. Go ahead, Yepsa.
On the last slide, you said something that I wanted to see if you could expand on a little bit. You said if it doesn't work, go back to the original assumption. What did you mean by that?
I'm gonna go back. It says instead of focusing on how to fix problems, I'm going to say go back. So justifying actions. Ask, what can we learn from this? If sales declining, what assumptions have we made about our customer that need reevaluation? So that means that where are areas that we have made assumptions that we're confident in or we're doing, but maybe it's not what is actually working. Right? Maybe we assume the customer likes our product. Maybe we assume they want it to be red. Maybe we assume they want it to be this sweet, this salty, this tall, this strong, this fast, this slow, right? Like, what assumption have we made? Because we don't, let's just keep it 100. You're not talking to all your customers. It's not even possible. You get as much as you can, but especially if you got 1 million customers, fuck it up. You ain't got a chance.
So you're more or less talking about going back to the assumption to
your whole strategy,
break it down and see where you went wrong at, and then build it back up.
You have to accept that anytime you work on a business strategy, it has assumptions built in the strategy. So when something's not working, go back to the strategy and identify where are the assumptions, and then say, is that true? Is this true? How do we know this is true? And quite often, a lot of times in those small tweaks, the small tweaks are happening within your assumptions. So give me a business. Somebody give me a business idea. Somebody give me something. A decent business idea, a new business idea. Someone give me something. Anybody? Somebody?
A new wig brand.
A new wig brand, right? So there's gonna be an assumption of, if you build this wig, women are still wearing wigs. They may be wearing wigs. That's hindsight, not foresight, right? Let's say they want their wig. There might be an assumption that I'm gonna build a wig that's better than this one. Maybe they like the other one. Maybe when you change a certain item, there's other flaws that you didn't see that arise from that change, right? When you get into assumptions, you realize there's so many assumptions you made that you just kind of like, it's a hypothesis. You're in business based upon a hypothesis. A lot of times the problem is not, are you a good person? Are you not working hard? Sometimes it can be skill and talent. But a lot of times it's just an assumption. I go into your restaurant. You're assuming your decoration is cool. How do you know it's cool? Do you understand environmental designs? Maybe you don't. Maybe you just assumed you did. Maybe you said, I'm going to build it like this. And now realizing that, yeah, this looks cool, but it kind of sends a different message. It's signaling something I'm not trying to signal, right? So assumptions are all over the place. And a lot of times when we're trying to solve a problem, what we do is we don't touch our assumptions. We try to add a outside fix it. We want this magic elixir solution that we can just plug in and make everything work happily ever after, when it's a lot of times it's just go back and figure out how you're serving the customers you have. Do you realize a lot of your personal business growth is not finding a new customer, it's better serving the customers you have? You assume your customer is happy. And that's where your competition sees and goes, oh, they missing that. And competition comes in and hits that little niche, and guess what? You're out of business. So a lot of times our assumptions, this is going a little bit too fast, but as you grow, so will your assumptions grow. Because you can't learn as fast as you grow. So if your business reaches, let's say your business makes $2 million next year, and you only had $500,000 a year before. The business you're running now, even though it's still making money, you made a lot of assumptions. And they're working so far. But when they stop working, instead of you going, okay, I did make a lot of assumptions here. Or while I was working, you didn't say, okay, these are a lot of assumptions, so I need to go back and start working through these assumptions and own these assumptions. You still start saying, oh, it's not working because, shit changed out there and all kind of shit. You know how crazy it is? Oakland going through some shit, crime, racism and shit, defund the police and shit. There's hella squirrels out there. I think we got mice now. It's all kind of shit.
And where are you, besides in your head, where are you documenting, how are you documenting these assumptions so that you can
feel them. You actually can feel them. You'll know if you really know. Okay, when I was first doing photography, I took off really fast. I think my second year, I took off in popularity. But deep down inside, I knew I didn't really own real photography. Meaning that I can grab that camera and make it do what it do with a JPEG without doing a whole bunch of Photoshop. I knew I was feeling with assumptions. Then when I went to New York, and I thought I had swag because I was being praised in Oakland. Them white boys at Milk Studios, which is the #2 photo studio in the world, talked about me so bad and clown me in my face. They didn't even do it in secrecy. They clown me like, what you gonna do, jump over this cage and talk about how you so motherfucking weak? That they put my assumptions in my face. There would be moments when assumptions would jump in your face. Remember I told you guys that what killed me the first 5 years of my business, what kept me the brokest was my ego? My ego was protecting my assumptions. I know I'm doing right. I know what I'm doing. I believe in myself. Once I started to tear my ego down and put everything I believe on, saying if it does, remember I used to say, if it doesn't work, I throw that shit in the trash. That was me divorcing my ego. Telling my ego, fuck you, dude. You let me starve. Fuck what you talking about. If that shit don't work, I'm trashing it. I don't give a I'm not loyal to nothing no more. I'm loyal to my family. I'm loyal to like some core, deeper thing. I'm loyal to black people, but not the way I was told I need to be loyal. I'm gonna sit down, reevaluate all this shit. This is how I learned how to think offensively because all my principles were defensive. But once I suffered enough, I realized, fuck my beliefs, right? But most of my beliefs are built on assumptions. The way business works is this. Oh, now what have you built? How the fuck you know how business works? You've been doing poor ass observations this whole goddamn time. Now you understand what it feels like to be in the middle of the war. You don't watch all these war movies. Now you understand what it feels like to be shot at. No, there's a reason you're pissing your pants. You've never been there before. So assumptions is a cold fucking game, and it can get us believing that we think we know, and to realize, do you really know it? If I took you, like for example, let's say you do video, and I say, okay, if I dropped you in Hollywood right now, would they keep you on staff or would they fire you? You tell me. You say, well, I don't know. Then you're full of assumptions. That's it. It's that simple. Those hard questions, and a lot of times you'll hear it in the feedback. But if you find yourself defending something and you can't really own the conversation with, like for example, feedback is not one way. It's not the person says is right? But you'll find that once a lot of times when people give you feedback, they will talk about areas you really don't own. Like I watched the Reverend Jamal on the morning show talk about the protest. And he said, and the sister started questioning him about the finances of the people. He goes, well, I don't really know what that is, but, and he kept going. What the fuck you keep going for? When you say I don't know what that is, but, what is there a but? That's defensive. At this point, you're just trying to protect embarrassment. It's so subconscious that he doesn't even know he's doing it. I'm not saying he did it intentionally. It's not a bad spirit. It's such a deeply rooted thing in our culture that we are so naturally, we have a defensive reaction to shit. As opposed to offensive reaction is like, I don't know it. You know what? I'm going to pause that. Let me get back to you. That's it. Let me tell you why that's also powerful. Have you ever been in an office and white people or black people or anybody is using, they're very charismatic and they're very expansive with communication. They're pulling words that you ain't never heard before. They sound like Stephen A. Smith. They're just dropping words left and right? And you go, oh my God, I'm inferior. And then you start to almost like play yourself lower because you feel like, oh, they know something I don't know. You're not supposed to know. It's okay. It's okay for you to say, hey, do me a favor, put that on the ground where the chickens can get at it so I can understand what the fuck you just said. Because what you're just saying, you're wrapped in your own world. But what happens is when you think you're supposed to know everything and you're trying to being defensive, when you're defensive, you can't explore uncomfortable spaces because when you're in uncomfortable spaces, you feel like you're in a losing position when you're not. You're not. I had a dude walk in my office last week and said, I want to put you in front of these, I work with JP Morgan. I want to put you in front of all these white people. And, they're not used to seeing black men in hoodies who could talk like you and be so forth. I said, my man, that's your problem. They ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm around white people. I'm so goddamn comfortable because I'm not defensive. I know how to say, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you explain it to me? You realize that nobody knows everything. But when you're defensive, you feel like I should know that. If I don't, I must be stupid. No, you're not. You're not supposed to know everything. So when you run a business, how the fuck you know everything all of a sudden? No such thing. But it works against you when you're in the space of negotiation. When you negotiate with somebody and somebody started using all these big words and they're throwing things around. Guy called me up the other day. He's like, yeah, so, I want to make this move with you guys. And I need to know how much you're paying your employees. What is their thoughts around your business? I called Mashama and said, man, tell that motherfucker fuck off. He said, why? He has no leverage. Why is he asking me to do all this stuff? Why would I do that with no leverage? The best way for a person to manipulate you is to play with leverage. Why are you asking me to do all this stuff? Are you going to invest? Are you going to give me access to something? Can you show me your past wins? Otherwise, you're using charisma to manipulate me, right? But why am I able to play smart defense? Because I'm not defensive. I can see, wait, what's your leverage play here? And if you have a leverage play, I'm going to engage you. You don't have a leverage play, but when you're defensive, it stops you from seeing those in-between moves. Because you've made life so binary, so 1-2 move, right? It's like 1-2 pistons. Like it's other up is other downs, other up is other down. There's a whole bunch of shit in between. And so defensiveness is a very dangerous space on both sides, not only in you running shit, but you also being manipulated by others. Let's keep the next one. Oh, finish that one. Finish double loop. Finish double loop.
Instead of increasing ad spend, ask, are we targeting the right audience? Is our product aligned with customer needs?
So that we just explained that one. Next slide. Next one.
Psychological safety.
First of all, y'all know I hate that fucking phrase, but go ahead.
Encourage a culture where people can challenge ideas without fear of punishment.
So, Danielle is Nana's greatest challenger in Fighting Media. Mashama's probably number 2. But Danielle brings challenge. And guess what? I thank her all the time. For the percentage of time she's been right, whether it's 10%, whether it's 75%, doesn't matter. It's necessary. Otherwise, what I'm suggesting is that I see all, I'm God, and I don't need anybody to ask me shit. And that I'm going to win, just guarantee. Do you realize how much of a fantasy, how much narcissism that's in what I just said? But a lot of us move like that. So when Daniel be like, I don't know if that's a good idea. It doesn't mean that I always go, yes, no, right, wrong, right. I'm like, okay, well, let me look further into it. And sometimes I've discovered a better idea. Sometimes it will leave this discomfort that allows me to change my attention level to see things I didn't see before. But I encourage everybody at Fighting Media, anybody that's ever worked with me, do I not say, hey, say what you got to say? I don't be like, don't say shit to me. Right? Because in the end, I need your feedback. I need you to be like, I don't know if that's a good idea. But once I start saying, don't speak to me, don't come at me, I'm offended, or but. Like, one thing I could suggest to somebody, even if somebody is left field and they have no perspective, you gotta acknowledge them. You gotta dive into where they're coming from, and you gotta understand their perspective. Don't go into instant but. Go ahead. Finish reading that one.
So an example is a team meeting where employees feel safe saying, I think we're making incorrect assumptions about our market.
Beautiful. Next slide.
Inquiry-based leadership. Leaders should ask open-ended questions rather than giving defensive answers.
So open-ended questions is what I did with Danielle in many situations where I would say, why'd you do it that way? What were you thinking? What was your perspective on that? What were you trying to achieve with that situation? A closed question is, why'd you make it that way? No, why'd you turn that green to brown? Like that's not, you're not saying, hey, why is it brown? You're saying, why did you turn the green to brown? Meaning that you're almost saying, I don't approve. You're giving other suggestions in the conversation. Closed-ended questions are really still commands. They're not asking for, in order for diversity by itself is a powerful business tool. I'm not talking about that DEI in the media. I'm talking about real diversity. You want to have a diverse staff. Diverse staff is a stronger staff because there's corners that every member cannot see around the corner, but if one of the members can see around that corner. But you'll never get that member to speak up if you ask questions that is defensive to the person who's speaking. That person should feel so free to even describe things in ways you go, okay, cool, I never thought about this. It doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It's irrelevant. You want your team if the team feel like they can't speak about something, they also won't have ownership. Now, let me explain to you what you have. You will have, let's say you have 10 employees who feel like you don't give them ownership. You got 10 weak employees who are not weak because they don't have any ownership. Because you won't give them ownership because you're too damn defensive. So you will literally say, my staff sucks. They don't suck. You don't give them ownership to be strong. You'll never know how great people are if they don't give a fuck. Have you guys ever tried to work hard on something you don't give a fuck about? Well, that's what you do to your employees when you're defensive. You're telling your employees, it's my shit, do what the fuck I said. No, they're going to come to work. They're going to steal from you. They're going to neglect some shit. They're going to be sleeping as soon as your back is turned because it's your shit. They ain't their shit. You're too defensive to make it our shit. That shit's crazy. Keep going.
Example, instead of, we've always done it this way, say, how can we do this differently?
So instead of you saying to somebody like, what do you mean change? This has always worked for us. Well, why you say it that way? What could we do differently? When you're in these kind of environments, and I promote this because we have to do so much thinking to solve so many complex problems, this is my lifeblood. If I don't learn how to think like this, I have a family. My wife's family is defensive to the 99th power. Good people, super talented people, beautiful people, best cooking people in the world. There was times where me and pops didn't get along, and I didn't say shit because that food was too good. Shut the fuck up, eat that food, and sit there. Don't say shit wrong. Because if I was not invited next year, my feelings been hurt. But I'm keeping it real. Y'all ain't black. Okay, I guess it's high. Just black brother over here. So, but I live between my world and my family world. My wife's family world. The contrast is so crazy that it's almost like a mind trip. When I'm in 510 Media, if you ever sit in a 510 Media space and we're brainstorming, you're like, this is crazy. Everybody's valued. Everybody's opinion is part of the conversation. Everybody's framing things offensively, not defensively. Everybody, because the reason you're framing offensively, not because you're trying to be social justice correct, is because you're trying to encourage another idea to come to the table, to attach to your idea, challenge your idea, and to expand a greater idea. Because the goal of everybody talking is the best possible idea. Not me being right, you being right. It's what's the best possible idea that we all can eat from, right? Get to my wife's family. As soon as you get past this one thin ass line, I'm talking that line, thin as motherfucker. It's like a thread. They run the same script every time and say, get your ass back on this side. So guess what I do when I'm around there? They'll say, Nana, what do you think about this? I'd be like, I don't know, what do you think? That's deep. And they think I'm the most passive, superficial. I don't get no family discussions because we're not going to work on a solution. We're going to go into a battle of right versus wrong, good versus bad, me against you. That's not what I signed up for. So for me, in order for me to continue to love on them, this is the key thing is I'm going to love on them. Then just have your space. You're not building anything with me. We're not a joint venture. My wife ain't like y'all. So, because if she was like y'all, she'd be with y'all, and I would be with her. But she's not like that. My wife, we open discussions. We challenge each other. We go back and forth. My wife can be like, no, you're absolutely wrong. And I'm like, hey, what do you mean? Right? Not, who the fuck you think you talking to? You ain't over here and I'm doing this and you over there doing that. What about the time when you was wrong? Like, that doesn't happen with us. Right? I'm telling you guys, once you guys experience this shit, it's going to feel like it's unreal. If you said in my meeting, people always say to me, when I come to Fight Team meeting, I don't know a place like this for us. Or we can talk like this and move like this and think like this and examine ideas. Doesn't mean that you don't get challenged. Doesn't mean that we don't work on some shit. I'm a lying to Neil. But we open the conversation up. Everybody gets to sit at this table and everybody gets to be heard. Not because we're trying to be social justice. I don't give a fuck about that. It's because you're valuable to me. If you're at this table, you're valuable. If you're not valuable, get the fuck up. Keep going.
Growth mindset.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Come on, let's do this one.
Replace fixed thinking, we are either right or wrong, with growth thinking, we are always evolving.
Did we start off the class with that one? Growth mindset. But that's also for ourselves. You're always evolving. You ain't fixing nothing. You're always evolving. Matter of fact, once you fix something, you break something else. It's like, you ever like built a system, like for example, let's say you have a car, a motorcycle, and you get the engine where finally it's optimized, where it's max, you get it running perfectly, but you realize the rest of the vehicle can't handle the perfect engine because it's been running with a raggedy engine this long that once the engine runs properly, now maybe your transmission will break, or maybe your rear axle breaks, or maybe your motorcycle chain breaks, or whatever, because as you fix something else, you compromise something else. So the whole idea is that once you realize that you're in a constant space of evolving, that in itself realizes that there ain't no destination. People, there's no destination in this game. We're not playing the destination. There's no once I get here. Once I find the right person in my life. Once I buy the right outfit. Once I eat the right food. Once I get the right house. Nah. The right house comes with a lot of costs and experiences and problems of itself. I think it was Jay-Z said, although being rich feels really good, I'm paraphrasing so bad, feels really, really good, it comes with a lot of complexities. And a lot of people can't handle those complexities. Because we thought being rich was a destination. It's a new challenge. That's all it is, a new challenge. There is no resting place. One of the things that we learned from working out, there is no time when you won't be working out. Like, once you sign up for this shit, you don't get to a destination, it's over. It's a lifelong commitment. It's like you say, I'm gonna brush my teeth today and I should be good for the rest of my life. That's the reason I don't talk to you. Your breath stinks. Okay, go ahead. Read the growth mindset.
I thought you was about to quote Jay-Z 99. I really did. I was about to say, whoa. I did. That's where my brain went. Okay, example. Our approach didn't work. What can we experiment with next?
Okay, next slide. By the way, can you ever admit your approach didn't work? When you're defensive, can you really admit it didn't work? This shit I've been working on, this idea, it didn't work. Many of you guys are trying to say, well, yeah, but I mean, the reason I did it was no one gives a shit. You clog in the conversation with trash. There's no ways. But the reason I did trash, say it just didn't work. And let's start from there. Let's start moving forward. But for some of you can't do that because it feels like you're being embarrassed. Keep going.
Why this matters for entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
As an entrepreneur, you must avoid defensive reasoning. Success comes from learning, adapting, and questioning your assumptions.
I promise you, questioning your assumptions is so fucking powerful. When you guys finally get how powerful assumptions are, and you learn to hear assumptions, you'll hear how many people are. Okay, if you don't know how to hear assumptions and you spend any time on social media, you won't realize how much social media is full of assumptions and it's full of so much. You can hear manipulators who are so charismatic because they will be able to put covers on top of their assumptions and you won't even see it. But you'll know when somebody's making an assumption from they have ownership. And once you hear that, you can just, I can hear somebody talking online and go, okay, you're full of assumptions. Okay, cool. It doesn't mean I won't hear you, I won't listen to you, but I also know that I got to validate anything you're saying. Because you're not talking from a space of ownership. You can see it. It's almost like their eyes do something when they're assuming. Like they'll say something like, yeah, but see, what I've come to understand, you just covered up an assumption. Or, I believe that assumption. I heard assumption. What I know, assumption. These are all assumptions that people cover up all the time, and we don't realize that some of us have ran a 20-mile race on an assumption, exhausted, feet hurt, injury, to realize we went the wrong way because of assumption. And we never take time to say the assumption should be on trial, not your personal value. There's so many assumptions. Assumptions are so, if I ever talk to you one day, if you ever just sat in front of me and start talking to me about your business, I would hit some assumptions you didn't even know were assumptions. There's ways the world works that you have these philosophical assumptions that are so deep inside of you that you're corrupting your strategy every day because they're filled with assumptions. Like, I don't know about you, but when I started mastering I'm not mastering, but learning how assumptions, how the world works, that shit hurts. One of the things you're going to learn from this book that I'm going to suggest you guys listen to for the whole month is you're going to learn that rationalization doesn't allow you to see the world. Rationalization doesn't allow you to see the world. Many of us can't see our mathematical numbers. We only can see a small portion of people. We take a sample size of 150 people and say the world believes in, the world is, what we're doing in the United States is, people believe this. Those are all assumptions. Anytime you're talking about a large group of people, you do understand that most of the times you're arguing assumptions. When you say this is how it's always been in the world, you're arguing an assumption. Like, you'd be surprised how much you don't know and how many spaces you feel assumption. And that's okay because your brain, I don't know if you have enough time to really backfill all your assumptions, but that's the hot spot for solving business problems, is assumptions. Keep going.
Defensive reasoning keeps businesses stuck, while productive reasoning, double loop learning, and inquiry-based leadership drive innovation and success.
I promise you that shit's gonna be smart. I'm gonna get into those concepts. So we're gonna stop here, but go to the next slide. We're gonna just read the next slide. We're gonna stop. We're gonna come back to the exact slide because I know we don't have enough time to. This is the next subject. There's two subjects we teach tonight. So the first one was defensive. Before we go any further, I want to ask: do we have any questions about defensive reasoning, defensive thinking, defensive culture, defensive black people, defensive LGBTQ plus, defensive women, defensive everybody that caught up in social justice became more defensive. The reality is that the world wasn't meant for you. The world was for you to come into this world and be a part of. But the world doesn't. Human beings are so freaking diverse, and there's so many different things going on. The day you was born, they didn't rewrite the world. You're just part of the ingredients. And so many times you have to compromise your beliefs to exist in this world because you share your beliefs with other people who have their beliefs. The problem is when you think your beliefs should reign above all, you don't realize that is grounds for breaking yourself or breaking others. There's always a dance. Your values, your beliefs, your ideas, you're going to be in a constant dance. This world wasn't designed for your entitled ass narcissistic way to have full domain dominance. I don't give a shit how much money you have, you'll find out real quick. Elon Musk is going to find out the hard way that even though he has traumatized, his response is very traumatized, and if you read his story, you'll see where that's coming from. But your beliefs are always under negotiation. Always. 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 I promise you. There's things I can say right now could piss you the fuck off, but if you just took time and learn how reality work, you realize I didn't say anything wrong. It just made you uncomfortable because your beliefs don't go align with it. It doesn't mean that reality doesn't align with it, but your beliefs may not align with it. Right? So, I'll give you a controversial one. How many people have heard this concept? I'm not arguing this. I'm going to show you how there could be different perspectives. You ever heard people say, black people, we built this country? Mm-hmm. How many of y'all know that? How many absolutely know that? Or is that an assumption? Is that a shared assumption? Is that a herd group's assumption? Who's the economist and can map the money, the bill, the investment, the labor to today? How did America get here? Was it because of slavery? Or was it because of other things? Right? Depending on what angle you're coming from, I can argue this multiple different ways. Multiple different ways. But I promise you, if somebody was arguing that different way in front of you, you'd probably be hotter than fish grease. Because your assumptions will put you in a defensive space. And you'd be like, he don't understand. But black people went through my ancestors, the slavery, the rape, molestation, and the pillaging, the cutting the babies out of the mamas to cause trauma to the slaves, so slaves were suffering, going on. It's disgusting, right? I'm saying that when you open your brain and you realize defensive thinking is stopping you from seeing the intersections, the intersection of thoughts and ideas. Go ahead. Pass your microphone.
Wonder about the difference, because like when you just said that, I was like, oh, I'm not arguing with you. I know what I know kind of thing. And like I felt my brain being like, all right, like that's just not somewhere I'll go with you. And I can tell how that would be defensive, but like what's the difference between that and like you not arguing with your family-in-law? Like where's the space there to say like... Well,
it's not even arguing. They won't have a discussion that's outside their views. So let's say, for example, let's say you like that. Let's say you didn't... First of all, your brain is pretty dope. Let's say you wasn't aware enough the process would just happen, which a lot of people can't. So that's why I'm praising that. But let's say you wasn't. And let's say I said, okay, let me make an economic argument, right? Let me show you some other variables because the world's really complex. And you kept saying, I don't give a shit because Elijah Muhammad said or said, and you just anchored in that. We're not going to get past. Then at this point, or if I'm arguing with you, you making it seem as if I win the argument or the argument shifts in my direction, I devalue you. And that's very strong in the family. So in a sense, the reason I don't engage is because I always go back and try every once in a while. Like, okay, let me try something else. Okay, fuck it. Let me try something else. Okay, fuck it. Let me try. And what I do is I'm never arguing this is right. I will say, let me challenge an idea you have. Have you thought about this? Well, I don't need to think about this. This is the way it is. If you know, for 400 years, the black man, okay, well, all right. Life ain't conditioned you enough. I'll talk to you when you're ready to have a conversation, right? So even if me and you were having that conversation at a cafe and I say, hey, there's other angles, you like, I know what I know, I don't need to talk about it. Then there's learning stopped, right? Especially if I can show you how the idea is compromising a strategy way over here. And you won't see that connection if this is untouchable. You're trying to create other causations for this distorted strategy when the strategy is really connected to this core, deep governing belief that's deep in your system that is at the core. And that belief is not a single line in your belief system. It's like, imagine like this real complex network that's impacting so many choices and pulling so many levers up and down so that has molded this behavior over here. That if you open the belief, it would actually either expand it. It doesn't mean that you won't be more anchored towards this idea, but would allow you to also investigate and understand more about the complexities. You know, one of the things about calling white people racist is human beings are products of our situations. You ever heard the story like black people don't do this and white people do that? You ever heard that famous phrase? The problem with that is that because our situations are different, our outcomes are how we show up going to be different. The problem when you start to demonize them as being bad people, you won't see how you may become the bad person once you change your situation. When I grew up, most black people drove Hondas, and that was considered a Mercedes of our black community. I watched some black people, as they got more money, became more assholes to people that were beneath them. Just how they talked about white people were treating them, they didn't see themselves treating the person beneath them the same way. So a lot of times, I'm not saying that what a person did historically was correct or incorrect. What I'm arguing is that you gotta seek out, like, what's the why? Where were we coming from? What was their incentive? What was their motivation? Because if I don't understand it, I'm doomed to repeat it. If the Jews can't talk about Hitler, then the Jews can become Hitler. You get what I'm going with this? You got to be able to say, well, why did Hitler become like that? What other variables, what other situation produced a Hitler? Because if those same variables start to rise in your society, that's your opportunity to have control of the outcome. Not once the Hitler's in place, it's too late. You're going to go with this. So the thinking is getting past this is my line, is go past that line. Process it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Just like I said, when I give you feedback about your business, it doesn't mean I have to be right or wrong. Table it and open the discussion and let your mind run and be like, because a lot of times you could be talking to me about your position as we're just discussing it in an offensive space and be like, wait a minute, there's something I didn't think about. Oh my God, thank you. Even though I didn't even give you the answer. The discussion of just being able to disrupt that line in the sand provided a new outlook that provided yourself. You already had the answer anyway. Every time I work with a client, tell the client, you already have the answer. It's just my job to help you get past your biases. So at the end of the day, there's so many benefits to the offensive side that we've been taught our whole life to the point it's a natural trigger. That the defensive is this thing where we're trying to protect the value that we think we don't have. Like black people, we've been told we're not good enough. The first 3 or 4 years, remember when you first came to this class, we did tests with black people all the time. And the number one thing I grew up here is, I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like I'm good enough. Well, of course you don't feel like you're good enough because you're in a society that's been branding you that you're not good enough. Right? We're humans that respond to our situation. Quick side note. Guys, this is so dope. You remember black folks used to say with hip hop music, rappers say, we're not impacting the community and how things happen, right? That's not true. You absolutely are. There's this law, if you look at this, if you study some political science, there's an argument. Do you want to write laws or write songs? Write songs, you have more impact. It's slow, but over time, people will rationalize moving in that way versus that way because the music already conditioned them to go that way. But if you listen to the hip hop industry, the first thing they said was, but look at Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movies and shit. Them evil movies have more impact than we do. The movies had some impact, but not as much as the person that looks like you had impact. 2, political science would tell you that television, if you study civil rights to now and why certain things don't work and why certain things are stupid now that worked back then, is because the media control has changed. The reason you had a Martin Luther King back then, you had 3 television channels. It's really easy if a television blesses you as a leader, you're the leader. Do we know if Martin Luther King was the strongest person? Even though that's one of my favorite leaders of all times, we don't. Because TV blessed that person as a leader, right? So then the rest of the world was watching TV to figure out who they were. That's what herd animals do. We watch the popular sources to try to figure out who we are. We identified ourselves to that leader. Then the television told us what happened and how it happened. Contextually, that's not the story. That's a portion of the story, a small fragment of the story. So even if you if you want to reference civil rights as far as you being a current activist, you have to go back and study the context. You have to talk to your mama, your auntie, and grandma and say, hey, what were you doing, Martin Luther King and Malcolm was speaking? Not a goddamn thing besides going to work and making my food. I thought everybody wasn't with that shit. I was doing this. Right? Talk to young Black Panthers. What were you doing? I was chasing girls. I put on that black hat and put on this Black Panther and women was coming my way. I was riding with this shit. It was a status symbol for some kids. But still, now you get into zeitgeist, which is, does that mean that we divorce it today? No, because a lot of stories grow beyond this. The story grows bigger than the situation. That's part of being human, right? All cultures have that. I'm not about right versus wrong. You start Life is so fucking complex that once you understand there's a difference between reality and then these principles of how reality works and how human beings, this imperfect animal, embraces this objective reality is marries subjective reality, and then it produces this third outcome of reality that is invisible, but there's all these principles and rules. And if you don't understand those principles and rules, you can get caught up in like, well, that's not factual. And that's not how it works. That's just not how it works. So defensiveness for us is we're not getting to another level of thinking because we're too busy protecting. What are you protecting? What if I said we didn't build this country and I went into this argument, what do you win or lose? If you did or didn't, does that still change the strategy for tomorrow? Build. Protect the black children. Give ourselves an opportunity to compete. Make sure we're not left behind. Make sure that we're in a position where we can sit at the table and have power and have leverage to negotiate. Right? Restore Africa if you're Pan-African. Right? Those rules still apply whether that story is flawed or not. Whether we were 18 dynasties of Egypt or 14 dynasties of Egypt. It doesn't fucking matter. It still has to move forward this way. So what happens is sometimes some of these stories, you have to ask yourself these other questions too. Is this story helping me or is it hurting me? Does it accelerate? Does it increase my acceleration? Does it improve my strategy? Or does it make me more rigid? These are questions you got to ask yourself, and these questions you can't have when you're defensive. You're not going to get there because you never get past the first part of the discussion, which is, I don't give a fuck what you said. Who the fuck are you? Goddamn Nana. All right, read this last one, then we're going home.
The Ladder of Inference, a deep dive into Chris A's concept. The Ladder of Inference is a mental model developed by Chris A that explains how people move from observing reality to taking action based on their beliefs and assumptions. This process happens so quickly in our minds that we often don't realize we are skipping steps.
That's the trick. Stop real quick. That step skipping, I can't wait to talk about this next week. But this process of the defensive side, the assumptions are happening so fast. Don't think your intellectual thinking analytical brain is going to catch your assumptions. You got to almost catch a lot of these in hindsight. You have to go back and go, is this an assumption? Because it moves so fast through the process and it fills in so many blanks because you have it's called heuristics. Your brain is designed to like feel and move quickly and solve problems. Your deep subconscious brain is taking a nap. It eats up too many resources. When Big Dog comes online, it's like, yo, goddamn, you eat up all. Now I need some more food, go to sleep, right? So it uses very little of your thinking brain, and your heuristic, your conscious brain is making fast decisions. This is here, you can actually hack this space and win and make better decisions and see better progress in your life, right? You can actually learn from your mistakes and start to see yourself actually build some type of growth. But what happens is this space here is where a lot of stuff is lost, and we become blind to this process. Keep going.
This which can lead to miscommunication, flawed decision making, and conflict. As an entrepreneur, understanding the ladder of inference can help you make better business decisions, communicate more effectively, and challenge assumptions that might be limiting your success.
So we'll get back to this next week. But if you could learn this defensive and this assumption game alone, it'll almost make you seem like you're better in strategy thinking, strategy tools than most people. You will be. You'll see individual assumptions and individual defensive behavior and group assumptions and group defensive behavior. And you'll see it when you're working in organizations and the way they start the meeting off and the way they just like start talking, you're like, okay, so this is a very defensive group. And you realize, so for example, a lot of government groups, if you ever go to a lot of government groups, everything's built in defense of not that never happening again. That's why they can't innovate. They have to create a space where they can have open communication, but they have so many rules, and then HR by default sometimes amplifies defensiveness to the point that it creates unhealthy environments. You know, this person said this to me and I was so offended. Then I'm not saying shit next time. I need my money. So with that being said, next week we're going to continue down this path of strategy. I'm going to make sure that Sydney will send the book tomorrow. Buy the audio book, not the written book. This is the best audio book I've ever listened to in my life. This is Excellent audiobook. Last, as y'all know, that make sure you guys pray for Dwayne Wiggins. He's going through it. This might be it. But one of our great local people, so shout out to him. Love him. He was one of the first persons. When I started Fight Team Media, when you first start, you're not sure if you should be doing this or not. And I was living in West Oakland in the hood. I'm talking about like I used to come out my back of my house with a shotgun sometimes. This is no exaggeration. And him and Daryl from Linden Life, Daryl Francis, which he just passed too, was my first two big customers who actually validated this is what you should be doing. And they're the ones who started the path. And so to hear that he's in the process of going through it and possibly transitioning, my heart goes out to him. Close friend, I've known him for 40-some years, all from Castlemont type crew. Raphael, all of us used to be part of that Castlemont circle. So shout out to Dwayne, and with that being said, good night.